This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
What do you guys want to talk about?
You are listening to the Flagship Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
And they all die. They all eventually die. They don't understand. You know, they think it's easy. The problem is they're just not interesting people, any of them. So, they're not telling spreader bar stories. And that,
No, they're not. Rich Craich.
And you'd start these arguments and be like, that guy's an asshole, screw him or whatever. And I'm like, I gotta go see him in like 2 days. Like, you're out there in Texas all alone, like starting all these fights. I gotta meet all these people. I gotta be at these shows. I have to do stuff. You're like, whatever. Nothing's gonna happen. Easy for you to say.
And we are live on the Flagship Podcast. I am Rich. He is Joe. Joe, what's happening? How are you?
We were in danger of some more technical difficulties here before the show, so hopefully you can hear me, and hopefully I'm coming through clear, and I'm just going to ramble on and extend this sentence as long as I possibly can, just to make sure that we don't have any issues this week, because took us a little while to get started tonight.
It did. Yeah. You sound a little, I don't know. There's some digital gremlins, some little scratchies going on the Lanza end there, but we'll see. We'll fight through it, see if it'll reset itself. But hopefully it does, because we can't possibly go through what we went through last week. That was terrible and made for. I guess you guys had fun. The $10 subscribers, they had fun. The people that listened later for free, they don't know. They didn't know what the fun that was had and the hijinks and all that. No, they didn't know anything about that, which is good, because what a disaster that was. But so it seems like people liked it. I don't know why people. I mean, it was a lot of silence and a lot of us going, "Can you?" and then you talking and me responding to you, but neither of us hearing each other. It was awful. But for some reason, you people like it, so we thank you very much. So as the opposite of the WWE, you people, you people are the reason why I did this. You people, I love you people, because no matter what we do, we can have silence, we can't hear each other, and you still for some reason like it. So we appreciate you very much. So
well, we can't get this straight after 12 years, just like New Japan can't get a pay-per-view event on Fight TV straight after X amount of years.
They can't air it. It looks like shit. It sounds like shit. It's fantastic. Just great.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, hopefully we'll do better than they did, but we'll find out as the show gets going here. But I was supposed to have some, Xfinity told me they were going to be working on my internet today, so I don't know if they are or not. Then they said they weren't, and who the hell knows? Who knows? Who knows anymore with this? Remember when I found out during the pandemic they were they weren't letting us stream at our highest quality, and I caught them on it.
Yeah, when was Rich versus Xfinity? Was that 2019 or something?
No, that was 2020. I think it was during the pandemic. It was I want to see it was either May or June 2020. And I was doing tests, and I would sit down at 7:00 or 7:30 or whatever on a Tuesday and do a speed test, and it would be this, and then I would do it on a Wednesday and it would be this, and then I would do it on a Thursday and the test would be a quarter of what the speeds were on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then I did that for 3 straight weeks, and I was like, all right, what's going on, guys? And they're like, oh, we'll get a guy out to take a look at it. Well, okay, what's he gonna? Oh, on Thursdays. Oh yeah, that's because this cable's loose. That's why on Thursdays. All of a sudden the guy comes, he goes, he's on his little machine, and he goes, I think you're good. And no problems ever again. It was perfect after that. So, caught him, found him. That's all right. How dare you?
Yeah, you were not so secretly sassy during your battles with your internet provider in those days. But yeah, I don't know. Am I sounding better than I was?
A little bit, yeah. You're kind of digitally. I don't know. You're just kind of digitally today. I don't know how to describe it, but you sound like Kevin Kelly doing a remote New Japan show.
Well, we're probably using similar technology, so
right.
It makes sense.
With a similar amount of understanding of audio technology too, probably. So it's all right.
I don't know if that's an insult to me, or if that's an insult to Kevin Kelly, or
it's ageist, and it's an insult to both of you, and it's ageist at the same time.
Jeez,
is what it was. But what I was going to say, if you let me, is that it doesn't. Audio quality aside, the quality of what you guys say stands out, and it's why people love you.
No, I think you're just saving yourself now. You're working stiff, and I didn't appreciate it, and now you're trying to backpedal. That's all right. I'll store that away. I'll have a receipt for you later. How about that?
Oh man! All right, well, we'll see what ends up happening there. How you give me? But yeah, we got a lot to get to. This is a crazy week. We talked about it last week, like in real time as we were previewing all these shows and discussing. Well, that's going on next week, and that's on the weekend, and we started to realize, oh my god, this week is going to have 1,000 things that we're going to have to cover, and 1,000 things we're going to have to talk about. And we're going to talk about every single one of those thousands of things. We're going to talk about Elimination Chamber, of course, the big main event: Roman Reigns versus Sami Zayn, the decision. How could you possibly have Roman Reigns go over Sami Zayn? How could you possibly have Sami Zayn defeat Roman Reigns and then the title reign? We're going to talk about that, what decision we would have made, all that other good stuff, and also review the rest of the show, although the rest of the show nobody really cares about, and everyone's really just talking about Reigns and Zayn, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Ariel Helwani and really just like, what the hell are you doing, brother? Like, is what I put in our show notes. Is I don't even know how else to describe it, but we'll try to break it down and figure out what the hell is going on there. We are going to touch on New Japan's Battle in the Valley, as we mentioned. Audio quality and crowd miking and video and melting screens aside, like a very fun show to discuss. So we'll talk about Battle in the Valley coming up here very, very soon. Also, New Japan's and CMLL are doing their Fantasticamania thing. It kicked off yesterday. And there's another show today, and then we'll talk about what the rest of the card looks like, or what the rest of the cards look like, what the rest of the tour looks like. It's running through the end of February. It's some pretty fun stuff there. New Japan Cup, we will get to the New Japan Cup brackets. We were going to touch on it last week. We ran out of time. We'll hopefully have time to do it real quickly here because it is starting March 5th, so we do want to get to that. And then in the world of All Japan Pro Wrestling, yes, there's a new Triple Crown champion. Yuji Nagata has defeated Kento Miyahara to become the Triple Crown champion. We'll talk about that. There's another title change as well in All Japan Pro Wrestling, so some fun things going on in All Japan, including their Champion Carnival, which is starting April 8th, running through May 7th. So we have plenty of time, obviously, for that, but we wanted to touch on the blocks and how things are looking for that carnival so far as well, including two X's, two TBDs in the tournament as well. But let's start off first, Joe, with one of the bigger shows of the weekend in my mind, and it was the Keiji Mutoh Grand Final Pro Wrestling Last was in quotes, so Last Love Holdout. Keiji Mutoh's final bye-bye show from the Tokyo Dome. 30,096 people in the Tokyo Dome to watch the final match of Keiji Mutoh's career. Well, final matches of Keiji Mutoh's career, as well as Okada versus Kiyomiya, and some other fun stuff up and down the cards. So how do you want to start this show? How do you want to attack this Muto final show?
You think they really had over 30,000, or you think they wanted to get it to that arbitrary number there and maybe fudged it up a couple hundred or 97?
I wonder. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, because the days of like truly like ridiculous lying about attendances has kind of passed us up. But like you're saying, like were they slightly short and bumped it up to that 30,000? I don't know. I have has anywhere else clarified that, or was that just their number that they released? I guess we have to kind of take them at their word, right?
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever really know. I mean, if this were 30 years ago, they would have called it 55,000 or something.
77,000. A few of those Ricky Choshu Tokyo Domes. It was like, Ricky, buddy. Like, the one I always remember is the Josh Barnett versus Yuji Nagata one, where like if you watch the video and myself and Andrew Rich went back for the Kings of the Tokyo Dome series. We did it for Flagship Patreon. We watched that, and I forget what they announced for that show, like 45,000 or 55,000 or whatever. And you watch the show, and the whole upper deck is empty. And you're like, well, that's a lot of people on the floor then. So, some of those were super egregious. But, like you're saying, we would, if this was 2002, this show is 55, 60,000 for sure. But, as Gerard is telling us in the chat room, co-host of the Emerald Flow show here on the Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network, they stopped selling tickets before the show. So ideally, if they, makes him think that maybe the number is a little bit more legit because they stopped selling the tickets. But I don't know. Who knows?
I'm not saying there was 20,000 people there. I'm saying did they?
You're saying were they at 28,150 and said, fuck it, make it 30,96 or something? Just we want to get above 30,000. Just say something.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, there was obviously a ton of people there. It didn't look like it was a fraudulent number.
No, it looks great. It was a aesthetically great looking show.
How many shows will do more than this? Both nights of WrestleMania. What Royal Rumble have? Like 40?
Royal Rumble. Let me see what
Alamo Dome.
Oh yeah, with the official. I don't know about the official.
Well, it had more than this. It had more than this.
Yeah, what they officially said was 47,585 for Alamo Dome.
Where's SummerSlam? That's in a stadium.
That is at Ford Field in Detroit. So that'll definitely be more.
That'll beat this. That's 4. This beat Wrestle Kingdom by about 4,000. Nothing else in Japan will touch this. What other stadium shows does WWE have on tap? Or going back to the UK?
Yeah,
I don't know that off the top of my head.
I don't know if they are this year. I'm not sure if they are this year. I don't know if Money in the Bank. I don't think they tried that last year and that didn't work. So I think they're going back to just doing the Money in the Bank in a normal thing. I think it's just SummerSlam from here on out. I have no idea. Survivor Series, I don't think they've done in a while. So yeah, I think we're probably 4 or 5 shows tops are going to come anywhere close to this one.
And even if they do a stadium for a B pay-per-view, they might not get to 30,000. So this has a chance to be the 5th biggest attendance in wrestling this year. So yeah, I mean, look, the Muto retirement stuff is all drawn. The question now is, now that he's gone, where's Noah going to level off? That's the big question. So I think the first big show post this event, didn't they just announce Jake Lee challenging Kaito Kiyomia? So I don't know what building that's in. Someone in the chat surely does. So we'll see what that does. We know that Noah has not done great in Korakuen, especially compared to the other promotions in Japan that run that building. And now we see Kiyomiya takes a loss as expected to Okada. Pretty definitive. I mean, the 2 Rainmakers, he just beat the shit out of him and pinned him. That's the trade-off. I mean, New Japan went 4-0 against Noah on this show. Look.
Definitively 4-0 too.
Definitively 4-0. And New Japan has the high ground. The bottom line is this. You want our talent for the show. You want us to help you fill this dome. We're going to win the matches. I mean, that's just the way it goes. When one promotion has the high ground on the other and you want to do business with them, you need them to help you out. There's going to be deals made and concessions made. And as we've seen in a lot of these joint shows between New Japan and Noah, New Japan not almost always, they always get the upper hand. And on this one, it was a clean sweep. And, the big one, of course, being Okada over Kiyomiya. Naito over Muto. It's Muto's retirement match, and kind of figured he would lose that. And that's really not that big a deal. But having your champion lose in the manner that he did to their champion, especially when the whole buildup was Okada just having no respect for him whatsoever, going back a year saying he wouldn't even wrestle him, and then in the aftermath saying there will be no rematch. I'm not interested in wrestling him again. Now, look, do they have something else planned for a year from now, 2 years from now, when Okada's no longer champion? I mean, you would hope so. I'd like to see them wrestle again, and I think it'd be really cool if Kiyomiya gets that win back at some point. Would it shock me if they never wrestle again? No, not at all. I mean, it wouldn't shock me at all if this is it. Because again, these are the kind of concessions you have to make. You want to put you want our help to put 30,000 people in the dome, and you don't think you could do that without us, without Tetsuya Naito, look, if New Japan didn't participate in this, who's Muto wrestling on this card?
Right.
So, you're kind of between a rock and a hard place. And Okada Kiyomiya was an exceptionally strong semi-main event. So, you're just going to lose the matches. That's all there is to it. You really don't have a choice in the matter. So,
You just don't have the high ground. I think what this show showed me more than anything is that for the last couple of years, Noah has been able to have these big time shows and have this pomp and circumstance and all these big stadiums and Muto, and the shows look great, and you got a great stage and you got all these fireworks and you have all these, all this really cool looking stuff. And aesthetically, again, Noah's shows aesthetically look great. They're in big stadiums. They're getting, big stars and legends of the past or whatever. But when it came down to brass tacks, like, you see where they are in the pecking order right now. Now, Muto's gone. And the New Japan guys were like, all right, no, we're coming in and you need us to sell this place out. We're going to beat all your guys and then we're going to leave. And then you're up to you're on your own now. Muto's leaving, we're leaving, you're on your own. And that to me, it kind of showed where they were in that pecking order, that despite all of this that they've tried to do over the last couple of years is get additional eyeballs on the product, get additional people watching Noah. And yeah, we're talking about it more than we've probably ever talked about Noah over the last couple of years. And they have undoubtedly gotten more attention, but how is that affecting business? Has it affected business so far?
Well, we're going to find out.
We're going to find out. Right now, the Corkins are not a good return. They're just not. They're not a good return whatsoever. But who knows?
Well, they ran Bodymaker and did the worst attendance of the three promotions that ran there in that short amount of time. I understand it was Jack Morris was the challenger, and that's not an especially strong challenger. But that show barely did 2,000 fans for Kiyomia versus Jack Morris. But here's the thing. How many challengers for Kiyomia do they have that are exceptionally stronger than Jack Morris?
Right.
Who do they have? So who do you think would have drawn significantly more than Jack Morris in that spot? And I'm not arguing that Jack Morris was any kind of super strong challenger, but who else is there? I mean, you could go to Takashi Sugiura, and he's always been a reliable draw within the context of this promotion. Especially there's times they've put the title on him, and he draws above and beyond the other guys in the company. Who else? Especially now with Muto gone, there's been less and less of a presence of some of those older shooters on the roster too. And who knows, with Muto and potentially Nosawa out of the picture, those guys might not be around either. You can't lean on them. So I don't know. This match against Jake Lee is going to be in Yokohama, and that's a 3,000-seater. And I don't expect. We'll see. I mean, I'd be very surprised if they flip the building. I'd be very surprised. Jake Lee flopped in All Japan, a smaller promotion than Noah. And he's going to be, maybe being the new guy here. He'll be somewhat hot, and that'll be a big. But look, he worked the pre-show on this show.
Right. That I was going to say, I thought I was watching the main show, and then all of a sudden, Jake Lee got his pinfall and it was over. And then all of a sudden they panned to the back and all the lights are on. I'm like, oh, that was the pre-show. Oh, shit. Crap. All right. Well, that's it's strange. Yeah. And so I was going to do this little thought experiment with you because, and your point led right into that of, okay, so now Muto's gone. The shooters are probably soon on their way out. The guys that were really the tent poles of this company in a lot of ways over the last couple of years, the people that were, the idea was we're going to get more eyeballs on Noah because these guys are here, right? That was the goal. The end goal and the result of the show that we watched this weekend was that more people will know about Noah and will watch Noah and subscribe to Wrestle Universe and subscribe and go to our shows and do all those sort of things. And we'll see about the business end of that as well. But when you look at the roster, I think that's where it really comes into a spotlight of, well, now what's next for Noah? Because I look back at a show from 2020, from February 2020, right before the pandemic started, of Noah. It was their 20th anniversary show from February 24th, 2020. Now, this was Pro Wrestling Noah, and it was in Nagoya, and they got like 812 people. And obviously not a great attendance, not a great show, all that sort of stuff, but that's kind of where they were at this time. That's before the infusion of whether you want to call it talent or legends or capital, whatever it was, because there was obviously Cyberfight did go a little bit extra with Noah over the last couple of years. But you look at the card, and I just wanted to list some names that were on this card. And Joe, I want you to tell me if they're in better, worse, or the same position that they were 2 years ago in today's. So if I say, Dragon Bane, you're going to say, well, it doesn't matter. What are you talking about? Why are you giving me Dragon Bane? There's no point in giving me Dragon Bane. But then if I said Nakajima, you're going to say, okay, Nakajima is either at this point in 2023 better off, worse off, or the same that he was in 2020. Now, you remember Noah in 2020, right? That's not that foreign. That's not that far away for you. You can wrap your head around Noah, right?
Okay.
Right? Okay. Let's do that. I'm going to pick out a few names here because there's obviously the major names. So the main event of that night was Sugiura versus Kiyomiya. Now, so Takashi Sugiura, is he in a better, worse, or the same position he was 3 years ago?
I'd say about the same.
I would agree. Kaito Kiyomia, better, worse, same?
I mean, in theory, he would be better. The counter to that would be Muto came in, signed a 2-year contract, wrestled Kaito Kiyomia 4 times, and Kiyomiya beat him once. And now Kiyomiya, as champion, challenges Okada, begs him for a match in kayfabe, begs him for a match, kicks him in the face, finally gets him to wrestle him. Okada treats him like a punk, then beats him like a punk. Look, I don't know how that's going to affect Kiyomiya with the ticket buying public. The early returns in Osaka weren't great. We'll find out in Yokohama with Jake Lee. So I'm going to give you a cop-out answer, and I'm going to say incomplete. I don't know.
Yeah. No,
I
have it on my notes, and I just wrote the biggest question mark because I want to say better, and ideally, like you said, in theory, better. If I just laid it out for you, if I just said, here's what's going to happen. You didn't watch any Noah over the last 3 years or whatever. You have not watched a single bit of Noah, but I laid it out for you, and I just said, okay, here's what he did, here's what happened, and here's where he is right now. You would probably say, yeah, you know what, probably a little bit better, but seeing it happen in real time, I would say slightly better, but not the amount better that you would want considering where he was 3 years ago and where he is today and what they did with him over those 3 years. You would want him better. And again, the fact that you're not saying yes, immediately better is a problem.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying my best to not say worse.
Right. And he was in February 24th, 2020, he was main eventing against Sugiura. Not successfully winning the title, but challenging for the main event.
What building was that?
That was in Nagoya. Nagoya International Conference Hall Event Hall.
What'd that draw?
812.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a big building or anything. So it's hard for me to, draw a comp there. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying my best to not say no. I am highly skeptical that in the 2 years that they had Muto around, that they successfully elevated Kiyomiya. And I would like to be wrong, and maybe I will be wrong. It's certainly not the way I would have went about it. I mean, we've talked about it a billion times. I mean, you can argue for Muto beating him the first time. He should have never beat him again. Maybe they didn't need to wrestle 4 times either. Maybe they wrestle twice, and Muto wins the first one. And then you do a 2-year story where Kiyomiya has to prove that he can beat Muto, and then he beats him in the second one. I will live with that. Kiyomiya wrestling that guy 4 times and beating him once, and then getting punked out at the end of the match with Muto just doing everything he can to make sure that no one thinks the win matters. I don't know, man. Tried to warn people about this, and now we're going to see.
Yeah, for sure. And I have seen a lot of that. We'll review the actual matches themselves here in a little bit, but I have seen a lot of people say, oh well, people are all on Muto for not giving the rub to Kiyomiya, but they don't say anything about Okada it's not Okada's job to put this guy over and make him look like $1 million. Like maybe he should have. Like I fully believe that Okada probably should have said, you know what, let Kiyomiya beat me because we're going to make more money with that later down the line. You know what? He can beat. We'll do a good match. You come out of nowhere. You surprise me. You beat me. You come back to Dominion, or I come back for the whatever. We could probably make more money if you beat me here. But that's not Okada's job. For Okada, he just has to get through this show, pin this guy, and then his life can go on. His life, he will never think about, and he will never be related to Kiyomiya ever again in anything that he's ever going to do. You know what I mean? Like he does not.
Hold on a second. It's not even his decision. Like, it's not even Okada's decision. Can he lobby for it? Sure. We all know Muto's been pulling the strings for the last 2 years. Muto calls his own shots. Muto was the de facto booker because what he says is going to go. That's the difference here. Muto, Kiyomiya beat Muto once in 4 tries because that's what Muto wanted. I mean, come on, that's all there is to it. So I don't even think it's a fair comparison.
No, I agree.
Okada got booked for a show and got told what the finish was. I mean, so it's not even, that's a silly comparison.
And even if he didn't go in there and say, and I don't believe that because Okada's never shown that to really be his personality or whatever. He's not wired the same way. But even if he did show up and say, nah, I'm not putting that guy over. Fuck that. I'm not doing that. Okay. It's like, it's not his job. You know what I mean? Like it's not like, you know what I mean? Like he isn't an employee of Pro Wrestling Noah the same way a Muto was, the same way all these other people were. For Okada, he's coming in here to help them draw this show. And yeah, there's just no reason for him to have to kind of give anything back or do whatever. I mean, again, could he have lobbied and said, no, have Kiyomiya beat me, that's going to be better for us to all make more money, whatever. But like at the end of the day, it's not his job, whereas it should have been Keiji Muto's job. Keiji Muto's job with a 2-year contract should have been, all right, here at the end of these 2 years, this guy needs to be a made man. This guy, if there's one thing we're going to do, we're going to get eyeballs on this product, but we're also going to make this guy, because eyeballs don't mean anything if once you leave, there's no one there to pick up the pieces. And that, I'm afraid, is where we're at right now. And again, we'll find out, but I think that's where we're at.
Well, how about this? Why if this was going to be the match at this show, why didn't Noah have their title on somebody else so that Okada wasn't beating their champion? Did Kiyomiya have to be the champion in this match? I don't think he did. I mean, the match still has the same symbolism whether Kiyomiya was champion or not. So why didn't Noah make sure that their title was on literally anyone else coming into this? Couldn't their title have been on Kano or just name anyone by the time this show rolled down, so that Okada at least wasn't beating your champion, right? I mean, he was still going to win the match, but he didn't. But this way, he wouldn't be beating your champ. I mean, there's just so many little things that they could have done differently.
Well, and then the other thing, too, is the way that Kiyomiya has been beaten and the way he has been treated, I think makes this... Because honestly, watching this match, I heard about the match before I watched it. I saw a lot of people say, oh my God, he buried him, he did that, yeah, all this sort of stuff. Watching the match, it wasn't as bad as I kind of thought it was. And I think people described it as being like a real... I don't think so. Like, yes, did he definitively pin the guy? Yes. Did he definitively win the match? Yes. Did he do 2 Rainmakers and say, get the fuck out of my ring, you chump? He did, but I thought the meat of the match Kiyomiya did have some offense and did do some things. I think Okada gave Kiyomiya a lot more than Muto gave Kiyomiya in a lot of their matches too, where Muto was kind of laying on the ring and lying down and just really not doing anything, and Kiyomiya having to kind of walk around him and carefully walk on eggshells around him until Muto decided he either wanted to beat him or that Kiyomiya was going to get that win, where I thought this had a little bit of back and forth until they said, all right, go home, and then Okada just hit him with the 2 Rainmakers. But regardless, like in a vacuum, this match itself wasn't that bad, and if Kiyomiya didn't have what happened to him over the last couple of years and Okada just went in there and beat the Noah champion pretty definitively, people would just say, whatever. But the fact that we're already kind of gun shy about, oh my God, another destructive loss for Kiyomiya, like that again, and that's also not Okada or New Japan's fault or problem. So it's just it's strange how this
it wasn't a squash, but it wasn't anything close to like a 50-50.
Oh no, not at all.
With like a hot closing stretch and it can go either way, super drama. No, Okada dominated the match. Let's be honest. This was nothing like those late 70s, early 80s matches where like the AWA champ would take on the NWA champ and they would go to a 30-minute draw or a 60-minute draw. They would do a double count out. And, like I can't think of one off the top of my head, but like Harley Race and Bob Backlund would go, 50-50 and then do a double count out or something. It was nothing like that. I mean, it was very clear that Okada, the idea behind this match was Kiyomiya is not on Okada's level. And man, I don't know. If I'm Noah, I don't know if I'm exchanging, one big dome house for punking out the guy I'm trying to make my ace for the next 10 years. And oh, by the way, he's also my champion too. I don't know if I'm doing that. At minimum, he wouldn't have come into this match with the title.
The optics are pretty rough. Where Okada picks him up. The 1-2 pick him up and then hit again and then pin him, just to make sure you knew that no, this guy is. And again, like I said, that was to me the theme of the show was Noah is nowhere near New Japan's level. You can have all these big stadiums and you can be in the Tokyo Dome and you can have a bunch of explosions and lasers and big screens, but you are not anywhere near our level, because we came in and we told you what was going to happen to this night. We told you we were going to go 4-0. We're going to definitively beat all your guys. We're going to definitively beat all your champions, and then we're leaving and you guys are on your own. But you are nowhere near us right now. Is essentially what that show was for New Japan versus Noah, which is pretty wild. And it wasn't like the other Wrestle Kingdom was much better. Like, that was kind of the same. You know, they gave a few concessions here and there with a few little matches, but for the most part, New Japan came in there and just fucking wrecked shop. Like, we all thought, Kano will beat Naito and maybe Kiyomiya will beat Okada. Fuck no, they just beat all those dudes and said, bye, we're out, have fun.
2 years of this,
yeah.
So, and the thing about bringing Muto and all these older shooters in is the idea is it attracts the lapsed fans. Well, now they just see your roster as inferior to New Japan's roster. So even if those people are going to stick around and watch wrestling, I mean, you've loud and clear over the last 2 years, you've told them that New Japan is the superior roster, the superior product, the superior promotion. So, but those are the concessions you have to make in these scenarios. You don't have a choice. You don't even have a voice at the table to fight back or negotiate. No, we'll pull our guys, and good luck putting 15,000 people in this place with no opponent and no semi-main event is what would have happened. So I don't know, but now we see, and Yokohama's the first test. And, if they have a super no vacancy full house for Jake Lee versus Kiyomiya, all right, that's, maybe they shut people like us up, and maybe that's a sign of they'll be at the same level that they were while the Muto retirement stuff was going on. I don't see it though. My prediction is they fall off a cliff here, and they haven't done enough to establish Kiyomiya as the guys just got punked out at every turn. I mean, that's just all there is to it.
Really
and it's
has,
it's not just Muto and Okada either. I mean, we've seen it with other guys, Fujita and everything else. And at minimum, he could have been beating those guys, but it's just, it's a zoo when you bring these guys around. Hopefully they're gone. Hopefully Muto's gone for good. I've had enough of Muto.
We'll talk about that in a little bit.
We'll talk about it right now.
Well, I wanted to go through the rest of the Noah roster here, just to kind of give you a quick little.
Oh yeah, we're doing this exercise. Yes,
a quick little snapshot of just because, again, like, I think people aren't quite realizing that once those dudes leave and once all that money and all the I did. Real quickly, though, I did find it funny. You were talking about why a casual fan would ever watch, Noah and not just go watch New Japan. The best part about that entire show was New Japan just got a reunion show on Noah's dime, right?
Yeah.
It's Tiger Hattori, it's Shono, it's Fujinami, it's Muto, it's all these guys just fucking around, and they're all New Japan guys. And then they're like, thanks, all right, appreciate it, have a good one.
Yeah.
And I was like, we sold 30,000 tickets. Okay, cool. Anyway, Go Shiozaki, better, worse, same.
Man, I forgot he was there.
Yes, exactly. So worse,
he wasn't
right?
even on the show. Yeah, I mean, definitely worse.
His body's broken down, and he's probably semi-main event was Go Shiozaki and Shuhei Taniguchi. Is Shuhei Taniguchi better, worse, or same?
Yeah, again, this is a total non-entity anyway, but even he would be worse off than he was 2 years ago. Yeah.
They faced Hideki Suzuki and Kaz Fuchida.
Yeah, I mean, Suzuki's there, and I'd say same, but not a difference maker in any way, shape, or form. Never has been his entire career. And Fujita, again, never been a difference maker in his career in any way, shape, or form. And even if he sticks around, he will continue to not be a meaningful draw or anything like that. And so they're both the same, I would say.
Okay, so we have two people not improving. Kiyomiya question mark, Sugiura no, probably worse off, and then two other people about the same. So great. All right, any of the Rattels? I mean, they're not, because now at this point we're not even talking. I'm not going to skip those guys because they're not relied upon to be draws. They're not meant to be. I'll go to the guys that actually matter.
Wrestlers.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the guys that matter. Naomichi Marufuji, better, worse, same.
The same. He's not interested in being pushed. His body's broken down. You can't push him. So, I mean, the same or worse.
Kazuhiko Nakajima.
I mean, probably worse because in the interim, He's gotten himself into hot water. He's hurt some people legit. Yeah, I mean, he felt like a guy who had reinvented himself and had a chance to be a real player, and now he's just he also comes across to me like a guy who's had the confidence beaten out of him too.
Yeah,
I would say
that swagger is
worse.
not where it was a couple years ago.
The swagger's gone. A lot of that's his own doing, but I would say he is in a significantly worse position than he was 2 years ago.
I would agree. Kano.
Maybe a little better. I'd have to look back and see, who did he wrestle on that show?
So he wasn't on that show, actually. So I do. I went to 2020 there just to make sure I got Kano. But yeah, he was not on this 2020 show that I was looking at.
I would say he has raised his stock in the last 2 years.
Yeah, and I would agree with that too. So I think he is better off now. Is that better off enough that you can put him on a bill and sell 1,000 tickets? I don't know that. But I do agree. I think he has, his confidence to me has risen, and the Congo and all that sort of. I think I like Kano more, and I think he's better off now than he was a couple of years ago. So he is probably the first easy for me thumbs up guy.
He's stock. I would agree.
So I went to this 2021 show just because the 2020 show that we were kind of running out of like guys that I think were, relatively. So we'll just go another year. We'll go to February 24th, 2021 to give us our last few main eventers here. Masa Kitamiya.
Probably about the same.
I would agree.
He's just a guy on the roster. He's fine.
Yeah. Manabu Soya.
Again, I mean, I don't know. Just the same.
Yeah. Hey, I'm with you. I don't know who else. That's what I'm saying. Who else comes to top of mind now when I mention Noah guys that you say, oh well, yeah. What about in terms of guys that can draw? Is Amakusa better off? Yeah, of course. But
oh my god, yeah, way.
But no one. I mean, they're not. Nobody's buying a ticket to see him.
He's a junior. He's a junior.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, who's
right, there's my point. There's my point. That's it. I'm done. I don't know anybody else. Eita, Ogawa. I could name other dudes. They got dudes. They're not short of dudes. But Jake Lee. I mean, yeah, they have Jake Lee. They have Jack Morris.
They added a couple guys. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, okay. Jake Lee wasn't exactly lighting the world on fire. It's not like Jake Lee they found out of obscurity, and I mean he was in All Japan as a top to push guy. He was there. He was available to any other. All Japan didn't exactly light the world on fire with Jake Lee. So
Jake Lee bombed in a smaller promotion. That's their next title challenger. I mean, there's no way around it. He bombed in a smaller promotion. Now they might do a better job with him. We'll see. I don't like the idea of your next title challenger for a pretty big building is a guy that worked the pre-show match on your last big show. That's not exactly heating a guy up for a big title challenge. So, look, this promotion is not well booked, and it hasn't been for years. That's just another example. Why wasn't Jake Lee winning a big singles match or scoring a big fall in a tag, I don't know, fourth from the top on this show? Because he wasn't going to get any higher than that. Why, to set up this match, why did that not happen? I know it's a rhetorical question. I'm not looking for an answer, but that's another example of it's poorly booked.
And that's kind of, and there's kind of the end of my exercise. Those are all the names that I had written down. And then I found is like, in terms of guys that you could put on top of a show. And so we ended up with Kano, definitely better. Kiyomiya, incomplete / probably no.
Yeah.
And that's our list of guys that have been improved over the last 3 years. That's not good. That is not, to me, worth the investment. Because yes, you got the eyeballs, you got people looking, you got people's attention. But what are they going to come to? They're going to come to a show and see this wasteland afterwards. And it's I say wasteland, and I like the Noah roster. I think it's a really good roster. Like we said, a lot of the undercard guys I like a lot. But in terms of like top tier talent, top guys, people that you can draw, people, this is what that goal should have been over the last couple of years is let's have a few dudes. Let's have Nakajima be ready to go. Let's have Kano be ready to go. Let's have Kiyomiya be so clearly ready to go. Let's get those guys ready to go. And like you said, we have Kano yes, Kiyomiya kind of, sort of, probably not, and Nakajima's worse off. And that's, and then the other guys there's just they didn't develop anybody in these couple of years, and that to me is going to be the biggest issue.
Listen, it's almost as if the best wrestling podcast in the world tried to tell people that the last 2 years were all about putting your eggs in Muto's basket, and it was Muto being all about Muto and not giving a shit about what he left behind. It's almost as if the best wrestling podcast on the planet tried to tell people that.
It's like we were right because we've been around this thing for a while and seen how these things go. I know it's so crazy. And as the chat room is pointing out, chat room, Sochi Kojima as well is saying that he's gone from Noah moving forward too. So, but again, like he was the guy that you were using as a stopgap anyway. I don't want to count him in this exercise either because I don't want to count. I want to count new dudes. You know what I mean? I want to count the next generation of guys. I'm not going to, get. I loved Kojima. Noah. I loved it. He was great in Noah. But I'm talking about when all those guys leave, when all the legends are gone. Now what do you have?
Well, okay, go do a nice little number in your little 3,000 seat building in Yokohama.
Yeah,
is that asking too much? Is that asking too much? And that won't exactly close the door on this if they do that, but it's a nice step, right? And then let's see, now that Muto's gone, if you can keep running your Budokans and all these larger buildings that you were running during his retirement tour and the run up to the retirement and everything. If not, then it was left in the same place that Muto and his cronies found it, which was always the fear that I had all along.
Oh yeah. We warned you 2 years ago. We warned you 3 years ago when Fujita was starting to creep in. We were saying, don't let these guys are going to come. They're going to get their shit and they're going to get their shit in and then they're going to bounce and you're going to be in a fucking wasteland. And
they benefit themselves and then they get the fuck out. Now you put all your eggs in that basket. You drew a couple nice houses, some really big houses, some great houses for his retirement matches. The three various, the Nakamura match, this match here in the Dome, the tag match. That's great.
Yeah, they probably made some money. They probably made some dime. That's good.
They made a lot of money. They did the retirement tour was a massive success. There's no doubt about it. It was hard to tell how they were doing before that because we were in the pandemic times with limited tickets, and that stuff is so hard to parse out. We know now that the Corkins aren't doing well. The last GHC title match they had didn't do particularly well in Osaka. Now we find out in Yokohama. So this is something we keep an eye on to see the state of Noah now in the post-Muto world. And soon we find out. Now, as far as the Kiyomiya Okada match, just in a vacuum, I thought it was a great match. I mean,
I loved it.
And Okada is working. The way he's working this year is he's like a man possessed. I mean, there's hatred in his work against all opponents, not even just in this feud where that was the basis of the feud, that he just didn't have respect for this little prick and wanted to shut him up and beat him, and he did. And that's the story they told. But, even the Jay White match at Wrestle Kingdom, where I thought the back half of that match was spectacular after a little bit of a slow start. And Okada himself, I thought, was phenomenal in that match. He's been working like this all year. So and obviously that was the best match on the show. This is one of those weird things because if you're a huge Keiji Muto fan and you're wrapped up in the emotion and the pageantry I could see you preferring the main event. I get it. Me, I don't really hold him in much reverence. I can't wait for this guy to be gone. I'm so sick of talking about him. I think the discourse around him is tiresome and I'm bored with it. I think wherever, he comes into these promotions and everyone gets sucked into the Keiji Muto vortex, and it's just, I'm glad he's gone. I've had enough. I'd be more than happy, if this is real, and I feel like this will be real. But in terms of, if you leave the emotion part out of it, okay, Okada Kiyomiya was the best match on the show, and it was an excellent, excellent match.
No, I loved it. Yeah. In a vacuum, obviously not, focused on, oh my God, what is this going to do for Kiyomiya? Oh my God, what's this going to do? Oh, the Barry, just stripped down to its actual bell to bell. Yeah, it was a fantastic match. And like I said, I think Kiyomiya looked better than people give him credit for, and looked better, and Okada gave him a little bit more in the middle part of the match than I think because a lot of people are going to focus on the end, which again was very definitive, picking up at 2, hitting the Rainmaker again, very definitive, very obvious, where in the pecking order they were. But I thought a lot of the work before that was good, because Okada again is doing this thing where he's just a fucking prick and he's an asshole, and he did it to Tanahashi at Battle in the Valley too, where he doesn't take his guys seriously. He thinks everyone's beneath him. He's hey, I'm the top of New Japan. I'm the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. You're not on my level. And Kiyomiya briefly got on his level for a little bit until Okada said, no, dude, you're not on my level. And then boom, boom, 2 Rainmakers is done. And that's kind of what happened with the Tanahashi match as well. Tanahashi got a little bit of going in the Battle in the Valley thing. And then he said, all right, we're done here. Boom, boom, you're out. It's over here. When I decide it's over, it's over. And I like that style, and I like the way that Okada's working, and I liked a lot of this match. But no, I thought this was a high-level wrestling. And there was a lot of good wrestling on the show, but this is the match to me that felt the most high-level. This is 2 dudes at the top of their game going out and having a great match. And that's why I kind of wanted Okada to lose to Kiyomiya, because I really do think that these guys have something here, and they have something kind of cool here, and it would be fun to see them trade wins back and forth. But ultimately, I get it. I get Okada, or New Japan thinking, well, we don't really need you, buddy. We're good. We don't really need Kiyomiya to come to our, Dominion. We'll sell tickets whether you're on the show or not. Would it have been fun? Sure, but I absolutely get Okada and New Japan's stance of saying, well, no, we're not going to give this guy anybody.
I would be stunned if Kiyomiya beats Okada on a New Japan show while Okada's champion. That's not going to happen. Could they have something planned for when Okada is no longer champion? Sure. I mean, I a year from now, 6 months from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, when Okada's no longer champ, could Kiyomiya get this win back? Could this be a super long-term, thought-out thing where they do have a series of matches over a number of years or something? I mean, that wouldn't stun me. I don't expect it, though. I really just feel like this was the concession Noah had to make. You want to do this, you want to help us load up the show. Our champ's beating your champ, and he's punking him out in the process.
I agree.
That's all.
I would be stunned if they ever go back to this. And I think, again, I'd love it. I would love it. I think they had a really cool thing going here, and I like the story. And I watching these 2 guys in the ring, it's like, oh, okay, these guys have, a dynamic, fun style, and I'd like to see these matches. But yeah, ultimately, if that's it, then, fine with me. I get it. I totally do. But no, I thought it was good. And as Connor in the note of Sharon points out as well, and Okada's, I think he did this in the Tanahashi match too. He's been doing the Insiguri, then the Emerald Flosion, and then hitting the Rainmaker. So he's starting to kind of grab little bits and pieces from, historical wrestlers and put them all into one. And that he did after he did the first Rainmaker to Kiyomiya, then did the Insiguri, then the Emerald Flosion, then hit him with the second Rainmaker. So I'm just going to hit you with every major finishing move in both of our companies' histories. And now you're gone. Get out of my ring. Bye. All right,
well, he's been doing the Inoki stuff for like a year, and just throwing in the Noah stuff is just an added kick in the dick. I mean, this is why I'm saying,
right.
Okay, this is why I'm saying this was not worked like a traditional 2 world champions from opposite companies faced each other, and it was not. This was a dominant win, especially by those standards. Even though Kiyomiya did get some offense in the middle part of the match, I mean, he just and it only won 16 minutes too. I mean, it's not like, again, they didn't go 30 minutes and have this back and forth epic. Which I think could have, even if Kiyomiya lost, that could have really helped him. I don't think this helps him at all. I mean, I don't think it may not necessarily hurt him. It could, but this match did nothing to help him. I don't see how Kiyomiya came out of this looking better. One thing they did, though, was in the post-match, which I thought was interesting. He got walked out of there by his boys in tears, the same way Okada got walked out of the Dome that year he lost to Tanahashi.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. All right.
I thought was interesting, and the camera focused on that. So, maybe that's a little foreshadowing, both a little callback and foreshadowing at the same time. And, maybe they do go back to this match at some point, and Kiyomiya grows and learns and beats him.
Or just starts being a prick. I think we need Kiyomiya to start being a prick. That's what we need. Enough of this nice guy shit.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think he's got it in him, but hey, we'll see.
He's a world champion and a company ace who gets booked like he's still a young boy, and he even his energy is that of a guy on the come up and not a guy who's there. It's so weird. It's so weird. By this point, he should be grabbing it by the throat, and he should be the dominant alpha of the company. He's not. He's not. And, a lot of that's due to Muto, and it's whatever. I mean, I don't know. And maybe he just don't have it in him. But he's not showing it yet. But as far as the Naito-Muto match, I mean, look, I thought it fucking sucked. But
all right, good, because that's my hot take. It's like I saw these people being like, "Oh, it's a love letter to wrestling," and I was like, and again, if you are invested in this Muto thing, if you haven't been watching all of these matches, if you actually care about this guy, maybe, I guess, but like I've been watching all of these and I don't care about the guy. I just kind of want him to go away. So I was mostly just ticking the seconds down saying, when is this asshole going to get Destino'd and just get off my screen so I don't have to ever see him again? Like that's where I was. And I totally get, if you just dropped in for this and you've not watched any of these other Muto things, you might think this is kind of fun and kind of interesting and oh, it's a love letter to 90s pro or whatever. I've been sitting around watching this fucker for 3 years at this point, or 2 years or whatever. I'm done with it. I'm sick of it. I just want him out of my ring. Bye-bye. Go away. Bye-bye. So like, I'm just ticking the seconds down, hoping and praying that Naito's just going to beat this guy and we can move on with our lives and stop talking about Keiji Muto. But so that's where I was. So it sucks because I objectively cannot tell you if I like this match or not because I'm not objective about it. I went in thinking, go away, bye-bye, leave, please. And that I just didn't care about all the other stuff. I just didn't think it was that good either. Like, I don't know. It
wasn't good. I am being objective. The guy can barely move. It's the same thing I say about all his matches. I cannot suspend my disbelief for a guy who can barely walk. It's absurd. I think it's absurd when people like Kiyomiya have to sell for him. I think it's absurd that Naito has to work down to Keiji Muto and slow his shit down and wait for this guy to get in position and sell for his weak looking shit. So I just, from a technical standpoint, the match sucked. I was bored out of my mind. I couldn't wait for it to end. But I totally understand if you're wrapped up in the emotion of the event. I get it. I really do. I honest to God get that part of it. But like Rich is saying, I'm indifferent on Keiji Muto, and I actually dislike a lot of the back half of his career and his politicking. He's the Japanese Hogan. And I've had enough of him from that standpoint. And I've had enough of his tired old man routine that the guy just can't go between the bells. And I'm tired of watching wrestlers in their primes and close to their primes having to compensate for that and sell for this tired, old, broken down husk of a man. It's not interesting to me. So I didn't find it compelling or interesting in any way. I mean, went up for the moonsault twice and just showed the frustration of, I can't do it because my legs are just going to explode if I do this. I can't do it. So I thought that was interesting. And I thought he strategically placed those two spots to get the maximum crowd reaction. And the crowd was hot for all of this. So it's a confusing review. Look, I understand if you found it to be special and you enjoyed it from that standpoint. I really do get it. And I'm not trying to take a big giant shit in people's cornflakes. Okay, I'm not. Because if you enjoyed it from that standpoint, I understand. And that's fine. Me, I had no use for this. I'll never think about this match again. I'll never watch it again. And I didn't think it was good. I mean, it was totally carried by atmosphere and emotion and the place and time and all of that. And good riddance. I am so tired of watching this guy. I'm so tired of talking about this guy. I'm so tired of the circular debates that surround him. And and as far as just in a vacuum, this obviously was not a good match. I mean, you really have to stretch the limits of what's good if you thought this was a good performance out of him or a good match. I don't know. For me,
yeah, and that's the melodrama stuff is never going to really land with me as much as some people love that stuff, but I don't really need love letters to wrestling. I just need pro wrestling. You know what I mean? I don't. Okay, well, how was this a love letter to pro wrestling? Because they were referencing moves from the '90s and Muto goes to the top rope and he's gonna tease the moonsault, but I can't do it anymore. I'm not what I used to be and type of stuff. But
those moonsault spots I liked because it kind of represented, okay, he's really done because he can't even do the moonsault. Like, he knows his body can't handle the moonsault. This is a nice bow on his career. We all expected him to do it, but he didn't, because in kayfabe he felt like he couldn't,
right? Because
he physically couldn't do it. That part of it I enjoyed. The endless string of Shining Wizards that I've been watching since 2002, I have no use for it. I mean, I just wanted it to end. And if I didn't do this for my job, I honest to God don't think I even would have watched the match.
Yeah, 28 minutes, 58 seconds, long.
I would have watched Okada Kiyomia and X-rayed out of that motherfucker because I really didn't have any interest in watching this. And I respect history. Look, no one can say that we don't respect history.
No, certainly not.
I just had it with this guy. And I've seen enough of his Noah matches. They're never good. And I really wasn't interested in this, and it didn't win me over.
Right, we're not dropping in. We have watched all of this from day one until now. Like, we have watched every single one of these Keiji Mutoh main events. So you got to understand, if you've seen all the, like, you watch this one, imagine this one, and then imagine it 15 more times. Yeah, that's kind of what we've been dealing with for a couple of years now. So yeah, it's I'm good. Bye. I'm done.
The Chono thing was cute. Again, it didn't hit me on an emotional level. And I'm going to tell you why. In real time, I was a Noah / All Japan guy. I was not a Three Musketeers New Japan guy. And what's funny is this happened in a Noah ring. You know what I mean? Like, it's so weird. Because,
well, that's what I'm saying. They got a New Japan reunion show on Noah's dime. It's fantastic. It's the best work I've ever seen.
Out of the Musketeer, like, I loved Muto in real time. Like, if I want to reminisce about Muto, I'll watch him when he could go. I mean, I've had this rant many times. I'm not going to do it again. I don't get off on watching these guys when they can't go anymore. In fact, it doesn't. Not only does it not do anything for me, I like Fujiwara in recent years, watching Dory in his
Dory
70s.
Funk. I was going to say Dory Funk, the shell of himself, unfortunately, going out there.
It's a sham. I can't. I can't take it seriously.
Well, you always reference, like, you didn't, if you were watching Willie Mays you're not going to want to watch Willie Mays on the Mets.
Flopping around in center field for
falling
the Mets,
all over himself and everybody laughing about how bad Willie Mays has become, or Babe Ruth on what was it, the what team did he go to afterwards?
Braves.
The Braves. Yeah, that's right. Where it's just like, here's Babe Ruth, and it's like he's fat and terrible and can't, like, I don't want to watch that. Like, that's not exciting or fun to me. Like, that's one of the most depressing sports things ever was when Scottie Pippen returned to the Bulls after his Rockets and his Blazers years, and they're like, Scottie Pippen. Everyone's like, yeah, a lot of these people that maybe weren't watching the Portland Trailblazers or whatever, and he was horrible. He was terrible, and he retired like halfway through the year, and he was just limping around and bad. And it was like, oh God, like,
listen, the thing about it is, pro wrestling is stupid enough, and there reaches a point where guys hit a certain age. And it's different for everyone, where I can no longer take them remotely seriously as a physical threat. And I cannot enjoy a match. I mentioned Fujiwara. I mentioned Dory Funk. Muto hit that level over the last couple of years. Ric Flair crossed that line at a certain point, where it's just completely absurd watching people sell for these tired and brittle old men. And I find no enjoyment in it. I find no nostalgia in it. And I find no emotion in it. I just don't. I can't get into it. So the Chono Muto thing, the idea that Chono never had a proper retirement match and it's his old buddy and they went in there and did this little thing for a couple minutes. I'm not going to.
Can I be an asshole? Can I be an asshole now?
Sure.
Okay. I'll be the one to do this. I feel like this was Muto's last politic play here, right?
I've seen some people pitch that theory.
This is Muto
I don't know if I
shit.
agree.
My man was scheduled to lose his retirement match to Tetsuya Naito, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Naito bounces out of the ring, rolls out. He's gone. He's out. And again, he walks out on his own. Muto's in the ring by himself. Now, Muto then can once again kind of control how he wants to go out and who he's going to. To me, it reeked of the same cronyism shit that he's been doing for years and years and years. Instead of letting Naito have that moment, which again, whatever. I don't care that much. It's not going to bother me. It doesn't bother Tetsuya Naito. It doesn't bother New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's just one of these weird things where, of course, when it was done, I was like, of course he was going to find one more way to get one over and just one more way to kind of control the last little bits of his career. And it's bringing Chono in there and doing the match and saying, I'm going to give you, Masahiro Chono, your retirement that you've never got. And then Chono taps him out, quote unquote. And then they stand up and they hug and they laugh and they, cry and all that sort of. To me, it was like, I don't know if that's the right way to retire. I just feel like it's a little bit more. It's just a little bit. It's just one more kind of cronyism. I don't know. I hate to be an asshole. It was cool. It was a cool moment, and I liked Chono getting that moment. But I just thought it was. I was like, of course, Keiji Mutoh would find one more way to make sure that not a younger wrestler, but make sure that the next generation gets nothing out of him, and that his buddies get something else again.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, who's on the cover of the magazine? Have you seen the Japanese magazine out this week?
Yeah. It's Chono and Muto.
Nah, it's fucking no Naito. He ain't there.
Yeah, but Naito doesn't need this run.
I agree that Naito doesn't need it. I just, the optics of it were very
I know what
Muto.
You're saying.
They're just so Muto.
I know what you're saying. The one thing I'll say about the Chono thing is it gives me much more confidence that Muto's really, truly done. Because for whatever reason, that's the energy I got off of this. So, and I hope that's the case. But yeah, I don't know. It didn't tug on my emotional heartstrings the way it did other people. And remember, Rich, I lived through all this. I'm not 25 years old. I mean, I watched all these guys in real time, and it still didn't do anything for me. But again, I wasn't a huge New Japan guy either. Maybe if I had been a huge New Japan guy in those days, but I never really cared much for Chono either. I'm not going to shit on the guy after many years after he's been retired.
I think most people could objectively say that Chono stopped being good after 2000. He and it's not his fault. His body just completely broke down to the point where he couldn't do. But because I liked 92, 93, and I didn't watch this in real time. Obviously, I'm going back and rewatching this. 92 to 94, Chono solid. Yeah, it's the 90s wear on, you start, and then by 98, 99, 2000, I think he's terrible, and then everything else afterwards is this guy is awful.
he had a cool aesthetic, and he was fine, but I was an All Japan guy. I was an All Japan guy. I wasn't a New Japan guy. And I liked Muto. I always liked Muto. And Hashimoto I've grown to like better as I've gotten older. And
I fucking love Shinya Hashimoto, man. Yeah, going back and rewatching his stuff now, I fucking love the dude.
Yeah, I didn't care for him much at all in real time because I wasn't into that that style at the time. I was more into the All Japan guys dropping each other on their heads and that kind of shit. So, but Chono, I never really, I don't know, cool aesthetic, cool gimmick, but he never really connected with me at all. So I don't know. It was, I don't want to completely shit on it, and I don't want to be super cynical the way you are. But I could totally see where you're coming from.
Yeah. I hate to do it because it was a cool moment. And I want to like it, but I just know the party's involved and the party. I should say the party involved. I should say the party involved.
I'm not going to blame anyone for being cynical of Muto. You have every right, and you probably there's a good chance you're correct. But it's whatever. It's as far as the rest of the show, I loved Hiromu versus Amakusa, and I've been trying to tell people that this Amakusa, as far as a reinvention goes, it's like night and day. I thought this match was phenomenal. Listen, you want a hot take? I'll give you a hot take, Crates. You just gave up. Here's my hot take. Amakusa is more dynamic than Hiromu is.
Whoa, there it is. There it is. You got one guy, he's got a bunch of eyeballs on his gear, and he comes out with crazy colors, and you're saying Amakusa is more dynamic than Hiromu Takahashi.
At this stage, Amakusa's got fresher legs and is a more dynamic wrestler than post-broken neck Hiromu is. I'm not saying he's more charismatic. I'm not saying he's a bigger star. I'm not even saying he's a better wrestler, but he's the more dynamic performer, if that makes any sense.
What ages between the two? Hiromu is 34, 33. I think he's somewhere in that.
Amakusa's no kid.
Isn't he he's 36, 37, right?
It might be pushing.
I think he's older. Yeah, let me see where he's at here. 37. Amakusa is 37.
Yeah.
Hiromu's 33.
Yeah. So they might both be a little older than people think.
Yeah.
But I thought this match rocked.
I like it. That's spicy. Great. It was great. And you know what? I will say, I don't know if I'm ready to jump onto where you're going there, but I will say that Amakusa impressed me more in this match than Hiromu did.
Amakusa's got my attention, and I told you last week in the preview, I'm like, Amakusa can bring out the old Hiromu in this one because Amakusa has that same kind of energy. And I thought this match kicked ass, and I thought it was the second best match in the show. It was, the Okada Kiyomia match, this match, and then the interactions between Kento Miyahara and Nakajima, to me, were really carried this show. Since for me personally, the main event didn't really do anything for me. Those three things carried the show. And I thought overall this was a very good show because nothing on this show was bad except for the Nosawa thing. And everything else
I forgot that even happened. Yeah, that's so bad.
Yeah, and everything else in the show at minimum was pretty good or interesting or inoffensive. Those honestly, three things in particular.
I love that Kongo versus Miyahara, Aoyagi, and Suwama match. I love it because there was a lot of hatred in that match. You know what I mean? That's something we don't get. We don't really get that much in modern Japanese wrestling. That's one of the things that, like, when you go back and watch a random match from the 90s or a random match in the early 2000s, guys get in the ring and they just don't fucking like each other. You know what I mean? And like whether they don't like each other in real life or that's just kind of the energy that they were projecting, that's fine because it makes it a lot of fun. And this was a match where like these dudes just fucking hated each other. You know what I mean? And like we're having fun beating the hell out of each other. Even Nakajima and Miyahara like kind of smiling and then being like, all right, motherfucker, let's do this. And then fighting. And then there was the moment where Kano and Nakajima are both kicking Miyahara at the same time. And Kento's just such a perfect shitbag too. He does a move and then does his little crowd thing. I'm doing the arm thing. You know what I'm doing. People that know Kento Miyahara know what I'm doing. I'm doing it right now. And it was good. And there, the crowd just like, boo. It was good hatred. I love that. And then Kento Miyahara after the match slides out of the ring, and then Masa Kitamiya's sitting there, and he's just like, "Fuck you."
Yeah,
he's just like, "Hey, fuck you, motherfucker." And I'm like, "Well, let's go."
That was great. But here's the problem with that. I think that means we're getting him versus Kitamiya and not Nakajima.
Well, yeah, but I can do Kento versus Kitamiya. I think I'm fine with that.
No,
I agree. I would rather have Miyahara versus Nakajima, but yes, you're right.
Oh, we have to have it now. I mean, look, there's all that history. We never thought they'd share a ring, let alone be against each other. And I thought it was great that they started the match. They didn't waste any time. They started against each other, but then they didn't touch, which I thought was brilliant.
Right. I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, the tension. Did you have that same tension? I was just like, they're going to have to get in the ring together, right? And then I was starting to think, oh, maybe they can't get in the ring together. Maybe like halfway through that match, I was thinking, oh, maybe these dudes cannot get in the ring together. So they were going to have them start off and then kind of, and then get out and then just say, all right, you guys stay apart for the rest of the match or whatever. So then when they both got in there, I was like, uh-oh, what's going to happen?
No, but then they just did some spots where they, did count. They didn't touch. Basically, they didn't touch.
Right.
And then Nakajima tagged out. But when they got back in there later, they work together just fine. In fact, I think it's a little funny because I might be reading too much into it or whatever, but I feel like Nakajima worked a little light with him.
Oh, he did. He did. I was worried. I'm like, is he going to give it to this guy? But he didn't. He worked light. I agree. The kicks were lighter. I thought he worked
like lighter than he usually works. Almost like, let's not even tempt fate here, and I'm just going to work light with this guy, or they're just the greatest workers and they're fucking buddies, and they're doing and we're being worked, which is great too. But I feel like he visibly worked lighter than he usually does when he was in there with Miyahara. But man, I thought Miyahara was so fucking great in everything he did in this match. His mannerisms, it is now proven he worked in front of 30,000 people, and I'd have to check. I'm sure this is the biggest crowd he ever worked in front of.
I would have to. Yeah, I would.
No, see, I don't want some nerd in the chat bringing up some match when he was a young boy on some dome show 1,000 years ago. But the point here is,
as Kento,
I can't recall him working in front of a crowd this big. If there's one I'm forgetting, it's whatever. That's not my point. My point here is what he proved on this night was his charisma will play in front of any crowd. That's what he proved tonight. There's been questions about big fish, small ponds. All right, he does it in Corkin in front of 1,600 people for a Triple Crown defense, or he does it in the old Yokohama Bunka in front of 1,300 people, or he does it in Osaka 2 because All Japan can't run Osaka 1 in front of 900 people. But his charisma wouldn't play it. No, bullshit. He proved tonight, or not tonight, but on this show, that his charisma will play in front of any crowd and that he can hang in any promotion. Because this was a big build. It is the biggest building in the country, a big time event with a lot of people in the crowd who maybe had never seen him before too, because you got all these older Laps fans coming to see Muto and everything. And he got over like a motherfucker, and his charisma was palpable. This guy could be a star anywhere. And that's why he's so far, in a way, we always say this, so much more charismatic than anybody in All Japan, where number 2 isn't even close. He's the best worker and the most charismatic wrestler in All Japan by a mile, and he could slide in anywhere in the world. You could put him on an AEW show next Wednesday, and his charisma would translate.
Oh, yeah. That song would play. Maybe enough people wouldn't make noise. He would make sure that they made noise like he always does.
He'd get over. He would get over.
And then he'd get in the ring. He would do some cool shit. He would do his little hand thing, halfway through the match. And then by the end of the 13-minute match or whatever, he'd be the most over guy in the entire show because people would just be going nuts for him. Yeah, he fucking rocks.
And and we had a guy in the main event who's one of the most charismatic wrestlers in the history of wrestling in Muto. We did a lot of shitting on Muto, but he's one of the most charismatic,
of course,
and biggest stars in the history of wrestling. He's a fucking legend. I want to make sure people know that I know that. I'm just tired of the guy.
Yeah, I just don't want to watch 52-year-old Keiji Muto, 60, whatever the fuck he is now. I liked him when he could stand up and do things as opposed to lay down and not do things like that. That's just the way I am. Yeah, I would go. Trust me, we pitched and we talked about doing a lot of Muto content. As he was ramping up to this retirement, doing deep dives, and then eventually we're just like, I'm fucking sick of this guy. Like, screw it. We're not gonna do it. But we were planning on doing a Muto and WCW deep dive maybe, or going back and looking at some of the All Japan stuff. Like, he rocked, but it's like, I just don't.
I'm
rocked,
Muto'd out, but
rocked, but he doesn't rock anymore. So
yeah, but Miyahara was, he did his thing, and I love Nakajima. I really do. But Miyahara is so much more charismatic. I mean, it's not even close. And I think that reflects in their careers, as we've seen. Nakajima always fails when he gets on top, and Miyahara is the go-to ace in All Japan that they always have to go back to, like they are now. We're going to talk about him more later in the show too. But we've already done over an hour on this Dome show. Was there anything else? Did you want to fly through the rest of these with some short thoughts and then move on, or
it's up to you? I mean, I don't know that there's anything really else to say about. Yeah, looking at the rest of it, it's up to you. If you have anything, I think I'm good.
So you had Daiki Inaba and Masakita Miya against Yasutaka Yano and Yoshiki Inamura, and it was just a typical match that you figured you would get out of those guys. Then we had the Tokyo Joshi Pro 8-woman tag. A lot of screaming in this match. A lot of very tiny girls wearing frilly skirts screaming at the top of their lungs. Which
I take it you did not love it. So I mean,
it was fun.
I think it was good. I think it was good. Yeah, it wasn't great. It was fine.
If this is an offer match intended to get me interested, it did not. I will never. It just the
magical girl was there though. Not even the magical girl could get you.
I mean. No.
Oh.
No,
right.
I want her to do a trick and disappear, and that's the magic I want her to do. And take the other 7 with her and never come back. That's what I'd like to see. It's just not my thing. It's never going to be my thing. These little sprites flying around the ring screaming. I can't. Rich, I can't take it. It's not. I want Stan. All right, maybe not Stan Hansen.
I was gonna say.
That would be amusing. I want Aja Kong and fucking Bull Nakano to run in and just lay waste to every one of these fucking geeks when I watch this stuff. I can't take it. Good-looking guys defeat Segura Gun. We already kind of talked about that because not exactly the best push for Jake Lee here going into a title match. But I thought Timothy Thatcher, you want to talk about getting punked out. This dude tags in and immediately gets pinned in short order by Jake Lee.
Yes, he did. Yeah. And then Jake Lee doing like the whack-off motion afterwards? Did you what? Like he pinned him and he was doing something with his hand, but then they cut away and I'm like, I don't know what's going on here, but okay. Sure enough. Yeah. And I forgot Kojima was even in this match. Until I'm reading it now, and I know he was there physically, but maybe in spirit he was more there. I don't even remember him doing anything in this match. But yeah, this was
who
Kojima.
No, he was in there. I mean, but yeah, as soon as Thatcher got in, he took that boot to the face and got pinned. It was just done.
I don't know. You know what? I like it. That's how I would have booked it too.
Then we had Daga for some reason is in the mix with.
What do you mean? For some reason, when you could bring in one of the most boring luchadors ever, you got to bring in Daga.
With Eita, Hayata, Yoshinori Ogawa, Chris Ridgway, and they beat Alejandro, Junta Miyawaki, Tsushio Kotegi, Seiki Yoshioka, and Yohei. And again, it was, it's a 10-man tag, and it was precisely as what you think it would be in a 6-minute match with those 10 guys on the undercard of a show like this. They were really flying through these matches. And, Then you got the DDT showcase, which again, it was fine. All those guys, all the guys you thought would look good in a match like that did. Nobody really had time to be like the standout or anything like that to me. But, you had your Maos and your Tetsuya Endos and your Uenos and people like that in the match. And I wasn't familiar with one or two of the people in this match because I'm not locked into DDT. I'll watch the big main events when people tell me to watch them. I watched Higuchi. Oh shit. Who did Higuchi lose the title to? He lost the title to, I hate to put you on the spot.
Oh, Endo. Was it Endo?
No.
No.
Lost, God damn it. Where's the, hold on. I got my notes here somewhere. Higuchi, fuck did he just wrestle?
Hino. Yuji Hino?
Hino, yeah. So like when people I'll watch the big title matches. Did you watch that or no?
I did not.
They just did 1,000,000 chops.
Oh.
I think people counted and they did like 700 chops or something. It was just I'm over that. Like I understand why people liked it, but
I also like it better when it's Kensuke Sasaki and Kenta Kobashi, less so when it's, Yuji Hino and
that's like
Higuchi.
It's not exactly equal charisma when you're talking about
right. So like some people can pull yes, that match type can work when it's like two of the most charismatic best wrestlers of all time. And Yuji Hino and Higuchi could are little wrestlers, but so I think I'll be skipping that one then. 26 minutes, 27 seconds, I think I'm good. So
of chops. Yeah, so
did Hino give him a middle finger at some point though?
I don't remember. I'm sure he did.
Okay. Maybe I'm back in then.
The official count was 220 chops.
What?
So
I think I'm all right then.
Yeah, El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr., Marufuji, and Ninja Mac getting on the Keiji Mutoh retirement
They
show.
love Ninja Mac there, and I get it. He comes in there, does his little flippy doos, and the crowd goes, yeah. So
did you see the way Shun Skywalker was just bullying the fuck out of Ninja Mac? I thought that was notable.
Because he was probably like, what the fuck is this dude?
So the Z-Brats, Diamante, Kai, and I thought it was interesting seeing Diamante and El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr. in the same match because they kind of occupy similar roles.
They do,
company.
yeah.
And I think both of them have come a long way. There's people who are way higher on Diamante than I am, but I think he's a great wrestler. I really do. And El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr. has really come into his own. And I
think he's pretty damn good these days.
He had I know I talked about the match either last week or a couple of weeks ago, but did you watch his main event from Cork and the national title match he had against? It was again. I got to look at my notes here.
Oh, I did. I'm blanking on the name. Yes, I did watch that one.
It was
little Dave Meltzer thing here. Soya, right? Manabu Soya.
Soya.
Yes, I did watch that, and it did rock. Yes, because I love, me. You thought I was going to pass up a Manabu Soya singles, main event? No, in Cork and Hall, hell no. That match rocked. Yeah, now I didn't see a lot of people talking about that match, but I really, really enjoyed it.
What was the date on that?
That was, let me find here, February 5th, 2023.
February 5th? Where the fuck can I find it?
Yeah, I was probably I think I was 4.25 on that. I'd have to go back and look at my, but I think I was 4.25. I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, that's what I had. I had 4.25. But I enjoyed that for the undercard tags. For the undercard tags that weren't Kongo versus Miyahara, Suwama, and Aoyagi, I thought this was the best one. So yeah, I enjoyed that one. Shun Skywalker too. I thought really came across very charismatic in front of easily the biggest crowd he's ever worked in front of. So Ninja Mac, he's coming a long way from the Houston Premier Arena.
He really has. We all joked about him, but it really does. Going to like a major company and wrestling with like other talented wrestlers is just the best way to get better at wrestling. It seems so basic and so obvious, and a lot of people don't get it. And a lot of people don't understand it and think it's just pure reps. And if you just wrestle 200 times, yeah, but if you're wrestling the same bad people 200 times, like it's not, you need to go to like work with veterans, work in a different place, work in front of different crowds, work in front of a different company. And you're seeing that with Ninja Mac, man. Like contrast what he was a fucking year ago to where he is now. I mean, he is so much better now, so much more refined.
Well, maybe it's just, he feels like on these indie shows, he has to get all his shit in order to get over, to get booked in other places.
Right.
Whereas when he's in a place like Noah, he knows, all right, I'm here. I'm in the major leagues. I'm in wrestling in front of 30,000 people. I can sell. I can let things breathe. I don't have to get in every single one of my spots. So I think it might change your mindset as a worker too. So all those things. Then I guess the only other match we didn't talk about was the Nosawa mess, which was Nosawa and fucking Mazada, another guy I could live without forever.
Stunk.
And Gato and Ishimori, which was more of an angle than a match. And Ishimori, quote unquote, retires Nosawa. And they tried to make this big emotional thing out of this.
Yeah, who cares? Who honestly on this earth, on this fucking planet, is holding back tears with Nosawa Rangai, quote unquote, retire? Who cares? Who could possibly care?
Yeah, he got a polite applause on his way out.
This is like when, like athletes will do that too. It's like some, at best, like fifth in the rotation starter who's been like kind of retired for a couple of years because no one has signed him. And he's like, I am announcing my retirement. It's like, all right.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be one thing if he spent his whole career in one place and this was, but it's like the guy's been bouncing around and, he's very well liked by a lot of people. He really is. He's got his enemies too, but he's very well liked by a lot of people, and he did get his little polite applause. I just don't buy for a second that he's retired.
No. And nobody does either. Nobody does either.
And the other thing is, I don't care. Like, he's no Sauron guy. Who gives a fuck? Like, you know what I mean?
I can't believe that they're trying to make us care about,
But he had a lot of words with Ishimori, and I don't know necessarily what the connection is there, but Ishimori is the one who pinned him. And then, they were down on the mat. They were doing a lot of brother speak down there, and I'd love to know what that conversation was. But anyway, I guess Taiji Ishimori can remember this great moment forever that he got to send Nosawa out on his back.
To send the legendary Nosawa Run guy.
While Mazada and Gato just kind of looked on in confusion, like, why are we here?
Yeah, did you need us? Are you guys good? Or like,
well, we had to get the Booker Man match on there with the two Booker Men. It's like remember how Gato and Delirious would always wrestle each other? Of course, yeah. On the Honor, whatever those were called.
Honor No More. Yeah, I forget what they were called. Yeah.
ROH, when ROH would come to Cork and to do their little mini Fantasticomania deal. They'd always do a wink. Here's Gato versus Delirious, or when he would come here for War of the Worlds. When Gato would come, he'd always wrestle Delirious, like in Chicago or something. So yeah. Anyway, that was the Dome show. Look, I thought it was a good show.
A fun show. Yeah. Honestly, in terms of the aesthetics of a show, Wrestle Universe looks fucking great. It looks phenomenal on a computer. It looks phenomenal on a TV. It sounds good. It looks good. The video boards are great. The entrances are great. The entrance ramp is great. Like, they know how to make it look great. I wish more wrestling would look good. Like, at a baseline, like, look good and sound good. It is a tough thing to ask for some reason in 2023, but these shows are aesthetically great. And the wrestling, all in all, damn good wrestling up and down the card. Even more so if you care about this Muto thing, you're going to really, really like the show. But even if you don't, I think it's still a pretty awesome show.
We are told that Nosawa is Ishimori's senpai, so there we go.
Okay.
That's
great.
the connection.
Awesome.
So good for them, sharing a moment in the In the Dome. I'm sure it meant a lot to both of them. It meant nothing to me.
I always remember this is the one my friends and I will always like send like these back and forth, like when we find like when this like wrestler retires, when like, you know, or like a baseball or basketball player retires. One I'll always remember is like Giovanni Gallardo retiring, and it's like, I have put like 9 years into this league. It's like, all right, see you later. It's like, you don't have to tell us, buddy, and just go away. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to do like a, you know, they have like the same Instagram post now. It's like, you know, a glove on a bench or whatever, and he's like, I'm hanging up the glove or whatever. It's like, all right, cool, dude. Like,
yeah, I mean, we're being some total assholes on this show today. We're like,
it's Sawa. Come on. I'm not. Also, he's not retiring. I will bet the house that my man will find a way to get into a wrestling ring at some point. Maybe on Muto. I'm not ready to bet the house on Muto just yet. I will bet the house that no Sour Run guy is coming back at some point.
So good show, really good show. 9.7 good on Cage Match? Absolutely not. That's absurd.
9.7?
It has come down some. It is now 9.6. The main event was well over 9 at one point. That's down to 8.72. Look, again, whenever you have something like this, a big retirement show or something, people are going to naturally overrate it. I mean, this is not 9.7 or even 9.6 would put this show in like among the greatest wrestling shows in the history of the world that have ever happened. And there's no way that this was one of the
I think we're
greatest wrestling shows in the history of the world that has ever happened. I mean, that's completely and patently absurd. There was way too much filler on this show for that to be the case. There wasn't enough great matches. And that's even if you were super high on the main event. So, but that's all right. You understand why people give it a rating like that. And I do think over time it'll normalize and come down. Probably settle somewhere around 9.2 or 9.3 if you even care about that sort of thing. But I mean, I rated it on Cage Match. I give it a 7. I think that's fair. I think it's a 7 out of 10 show. 9.7? I know you're out of your fucking mind. This is not one of the greatest shows of all time.
No, certainly not.
Come show of the year time, I won't even think about it. For like best show of 2023, I won't even think about this show. Like, you know, in all likelihood. So anyway, that was the Muto retirement. We really need to move on. We got a lot to get to.
We got a lot to get to. Yeah, that was a long time on one Keiji Mutoh. So let's talk about WWE's Elimination Chamber, Joe. This was on Saturday. Michael Cole told me it was the last premium live event stop on the road to WrestleMania. I know you took note of that as well, that this was the last premium live event stop on the road to WrestleMania, and it was. But the main event is what we're really going to talk about here and really focus on. And it was the WWE title, Universal title unification, the undisputed, I should say, not unification, undisputed title. Roman Reigns defeating Sami Zayn 32 minutes and 19 seconds. And what I thought was a pretty good match. It had a little too much of the Roman Reigns stop midway through the match and tell everybody what the story is thing, which people call storytelling. I think I'd rather guys just tell a story in the ring, which I think you guys had been doing for, 80 years and could probably just continue to just do that as opposed to stopping and going, we could have been a family, Sammy. I did this for us. I did this so we could be a family. Like, I don't need that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I saw the promo package. I understood you just wrestle. Just wrestle the match, man. I don't need you to stop and scream what the story is. Just wrestle. So you take
the art, Rich, the art of pro wrestling used to be telling the story physically.
Right. I know. I'm watching a lot of these Bret Hart matches for the Canadian Heart Month that we're doing here at flagshippatreon.com. Great stuff, by the way. $5 tier, $10 tier. You can listen to those. And it's Bret Hart telling very, very good stories, but he's doing them in the ring physically by wrestling and the way he wrestles. And in matches where he'll turn heel halfway through the match, or he'll turn heel at the end of the match, or he's being a little bit of dickish to a guy or whatever, or he's being, the underdog. Like, you're watching all this happen as the match is going on, whereas Roman Reigns stops and says, "Oh, you turn on me? Oh, well, now this is what you're gonna get. This is what you're gonna get because you turned on me." And it's like, oh my God, I get it. We heard you. Like, what? This isn't storytelling. It's not storytelling if you stop and say, "This is the story." That's not storytelling.
Can I get us in trouble?
Great, please. Wouldn't be the first time.
I mean, it's storytelling for stupid people. I mean, that's what it is. It's storytelling for the dumbest among us who need it hammered over their head. What the fuck is happening?
Right. You just got a 20-minute promo package before the match, so you should probably know what the story is. But no, then Roman goes in there and says, "Oh, I trusted you. I made you part of this family. I made you part of the bloodline." It's like, all right, we know. It's just, ugh. And people like this. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's not for us. It actively hurts the matches for me when they do it. They do it in NXT all the time. I can't fucking stand NXT.
It was never about us.
Yeah, I mean,
you were never my friend.
Yeah, it's
trash.
And then it contributes to the culture war that we're currently in.
Yeah,
with AEW and WWE, where it contributes to this storytelling culture war where one company allegedly tells stories and the other company allegedly does not, because I guess we don't stop in the middle of the match and break into a community theater routine. But yeah, that aside, and of course the cowardly finish aside, I did think that, look, the great reaction Sami Zayn got, and they milked it for all it was worth, as they should have. And then I thought they worked the correct pace for the match and the story they were telling.
I 100% agree. Yeah, you take out, there was 5 minutes of Roman community theater stuff. You take that out, I thought this was a great match. Put that in,
and the shitty finish. I thought the finish sucked too.
The finish absolutely sucks. We'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, you I feel weird taking out. I take this 5 minutes out and this 5 minutes out, but that is really good. But that's kind of where I'm at. If you take those, there's 5 minutes on the middle and in the end that I would kind of lap off there. That otherwise I thought it was, like you said, really, 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 really good. But I have to qualify that by saying that because of the community theater thing, that took it down a little bit for me. And then the finish, which of course we're going to talk about here, really took it down for me. Where when it was done, I felt nothing. And I was just like, all right, I moved on. You know what I mean? I didn't care whatsoever. And it was this had the chance to be a very special, this had a chance, Joe, dare I say, to be a moment. And this is a moment creation company. They don't wrestle matches. They create moments, right?
Yeah. And they didn't want to create one.
They didn't create a fucking moment.
Well, this is what we're talking about. This is why you gotta, as they say on the streets, Rich, miss me with this greatest story ever told in wrestling stuff. Right. If you don't stick the landing, and they did not stick the landing with Sami Zayn, and I'm sorry, but that's a big problem in terms of if you're going to call this one of the greatest wrestling stories ever told, or the greatest, as a lot of people are saying. They blew the finish here and they didn't stick the landing, and you're going to get tag team titles as a consolation prize, and people will probably enjoy that, but they really had a chance. I mean, if Sami Zayn pins this guy, the roof blows the fuck off of this building, and you have one of the great moments in the history of wrestling. You do. This would have been one of the great moments. It was one of the greatest crowds in wrestling history. One of the greatest crowds in WWE history, no doubt. Very similar to, Money in the Bank with Chicago, which, I was there live, obviously, and remembered, and hell, that's why this fucking site exists and this podcast exists. So it inspired me to do this shit that we're still doing 12 years later. You know what I mean? So they had a chance to do that because this was a raucous crowd and they were nuts for everything. I haven't felt this way watching a WWE match in a long, long, long time, thinking, okay, you know what? For all the shit that I give this is working, man. They nailed it. They got it. We're here. They got the perfect crowd, the perfect guy, the perfect match, the perfect foil. They got it all, and they fucked it up because they're cowards. They did fuck it up, and there's really, and the counter to that will be, well, Cody is also hot, and you have Cody and Roman set up for WrestleMania, which is also a good story and a hot thing, and because Cody's hot, and I agree, but Sammy winning here wouldn't necessarily preclude you from going through with Roman and Cody, because he could have lost the title back to Roman this Friday. He could have lost the title back to Roman 2 Fridays from now. He could have lost the title back to Roman 2 days later on Monday. I mean, you could have given everyone what they wanted here, which was the big Sami Zayn win, and quite frankly, he's earned it. He's the hottest star in the company. And you could have still had your cake and eaten it too, because then you could have done the same finish that you did in this match on fucking SmackDown in a rematch and put the title back on Roman and popped a rating in the process. Because, if you do a Roman Sami Zayn rematch a week later or 2 weeks later, maybe you want to build it for a week. 2 weeks later on SmackDown and have Roman win the title back that same manner that he won this match, you're probably going to pop a rating too.
Oh, you're going to pop a huge number for that show.
Yeah,
Are you kidding?
and
not
and
probably,
then you're right
not
back.
probably. They would absolutely do. Sammy is a tangible ratings draw. Unlike the needle mover, he is a tangible. You see the quarters, you see the shows he's on, you see the hour breakdowns, you see it. He is a tangible ratings draw. So no, it's not even a probably. They would have absolutely, if they said in 2 weeks you're going to get Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns rematch, pop a huge number on SmackDown.
And then you take the title off him, because I kind of agree with the idea that this version of Sami Zayn is not a long-term world title holder. That's not what he is. You know what he is? He's Kofi Kingston, but even more over. This is Kofi Mania, but with a guy who's a legitimate business mover. Whereas Kofi was super over in the buildings, and they did the right thing with Kofi, and they did give him the win over Daniel Bryan. The mistake they made with Kofi is letting him hold the title too long. You could have done the Kofi story, but done it right and done it with someone who was more over than Kofi. You could have Sammy win here, create this monumental moment in wrestling history, right? And then, because really that's the essence of this, it was all in the chase for Sammy. Once he's champion, he's bound to lose steam.
Of course.
So you can beat him in 2 weeks and then go right back to Roman Cody. And in the interim, in those 2 weeks, you could have Cody saying, because remember, Cody endorsed Sammy and said, go win the title. So then you could have had Cody say, all right, I guess it's going to be you and me, Sammy. But then Sammy loses to Roman, and then you still have Roman and Cody. I mean, they had it all set up.
And they've done this before, too. They did it with Sami Zayn in NXT. When Sami Zayn won that match in NXT and beat Neville and won the NXT title, that's one of my favorite NXT matches ever. And I've raved about that match for years and years and years and years on this show and elsewhere. But he won that, and then immediately after, Kevin Owens attacked him, and then the next month or whatever, or a couple months later, he lost it at the next takeover or the next special or whatever to Kevin Owens. And it was like, okay, because it was all in the chase, and he got that moment, and he got that incredible moment, and then they took it away from you immediately, which is okay. That's fine. That's kind of what the Sami Zayn thing is, but at least they gave you the fucking moment. You know what I mean? They gave you that thing. You know, people in the chat room were talking about Mick Foley winning the title, Mankind winning the title against The Rock on that episode of Raw in January. And yet he lost the title like 2 weeks later or whatever. It didn't matter, because that's an iconic moment in wrestling history. It's because he won that. You got to stick that landing. You got to make that moment. And when you have that moment, and it's a guy who's a tangible ratings draw, and it's a guy who's you just got to do it. You just can't care about the number of days on a guy's title reign, because now what you have done now is you've set yourself up to, now you can justify this dude fucking never losing. You know what I mean? Because now it's like, well, is this the right time to do it? Like, are they going to get to the Cody thing and go, wow, are we really sure this is what we're going to do with Roman? Are we really sure? And I think it also comes from a place too of, they don't know what to do with Roman when he's done with this thing. They don't know how to book Roman after this. They don't know what to do with this title afterwards, because at some point he's not going to be the champion. And then what? Because they've been able to kind of coast on the story of, here's the champion. He's been the champion for insert, 3-digit amounts of days or whatever. They've been able to do that for a couple years now. And he comes out and he puts his finger in the air and they go, oh, the most dominant champion. At some point, that's not going to be the story anymore. And I don't know that they have a good story to tell afterwards. So
the thing about the days and Michael Cole tries to push how historical it is every time he's doing his ring entrance and all that. But the thing about that is how is it historical? It's not the longest. It's not even. It's like not even close to the longest.
No, he's got to go a lot of ways. He's got to go a long way to get to Bruno.
He's not catching either Bruno. He didn't catch the first Bruno. He's never catching Bruno's 2,800 day reign. And he's never catching Bruno's combined over 4,000 day reign. Okay. He's at this point, he hasn't even caught Pedro, who's at over 1,000 days. And he hasn't caught Backlund, who was at 1,400 days. And he hasn't caught Hogan, who was over 1,400 days. So even if he had lost, it wasn't really, there was nothing historical about this reign. What's historical about the 6th longest title reign in WWE? Like, they're overplaying that as well. Like, there is no history being lost by doing the right thing and putting the title on Sami Zayn for a couple of weeks and then winning it back. You're not even blowing anything. It's not like he's knocking on Bruno's door. We're not even there yet.
Well, and the other thing too, and I saw a lot of people in our Discord talk about this, and it's perfect, is this company manipulates language and manipulates facts and manipulates data all the time. It's not that hard for Michael Cole to say, Roman Reigns has been a champion for a combined 1,200 days over the last, 4 years or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, there's ways to just qualify it that way. Yeah, maybe his 900-day reign gets interrupted here for a week or two, and then he picks it back up and he holds it for another 3 months or so after that.
Did you know that yearly Medicaid renewals will start again soon? This means millions of people who were enrolled in Medicaid during the pandemic may no longer be eligible for coverage. If this may impact you, the good news is you have options. Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield can help answer your questions so you can find an affordable health plan for you and your family. We want you to feel confident you're covered. Click to learn more. Policy exclusions and limitations apply. Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield is the trade name of Community Insurance Company.
If you really wanted to, or whatever, like, you could still qualify it that way. You can still say, well, he's been champion for 1,000 combined days over his last 2 reigns or whatever. They could do that. They manipulate language all the fucking time, constantly. So this idea that it's like, well, then what? No, but then he's not the champion for X amount of days. Who fucking cares? Jesus Christ. What are we doing here?
And I don't even think it hurts the Cody match at all.
No.
They had done a quickie title switch here. Look, and like you had alluded to, and I don't know who needs to hear this. Probably a lot of people. Maybe not a lot of people that listen to this show because they follow the ratings a little closer than, your random fan. But Sami and Cody are the hot ones here. When you look at the SmackDown and Raw quarter-hour ratings, it's always a Sami segment. It's always a Cody segment. And it's never a Roman segment. It's Cody with Paul Heyman. It's Sami with Cody. It's Sami with Paul Heyman. It's like Roman segments are in line with the rest of the show. The hot acts right now are Sami number 1, Cody number 2. They're both hot. Sami's red hot. And the thing about it is, you don't know if Sami will ever be this hot again. And even if he is, he was red hot and the hottest star in the company. Hotter than Roman. No matter what Michael Cole tells you, the reality is Sami Zayn was hotter than Roman and probably still is. Okay? Time will tell if the loss has cooled him off to some degree. Not only did you have the hottest star in the company, but it was perfectly intersecting with the match being in Montreal. How do you not pull the trigger? It's mind-blowing that you don't pull the trigger, and you would have done that. Raw did a good number, would have done an even bigger number had Sami gone into that Raw with the title. All their TV this week would have. And then you could have spent this time building back to a television rematch that would have done a monster number leading into WrestleMania, where all the tickets are sold already, by the way. And by the way, none of this is a slight on Cody, because Cody is he's arguably just as hot as Sami. I'd say a little less. Now you run the risk of people turning on Cody. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but now there's a danger in that. Now there's a possibility that fans might reject Cody because they're mad about Sami not winning. And, how many times have we seen this company go down this road and to what? Protect some weird, arbitrary, historical reign, which, as we pointed out, isn't historical to begin with. He's not even knocking on the door of being the longest reign, and he's not going to get there. Bruno is over 4,000 days combined and 2,800 days on his long one. He's not going to get there. He's not getting the 4,000 days. So, man, they just did not. They did not stick the landing. They dropped the ball badly here. Now, look, is it going to hurt them? Nothing can hurt them. We talked about it last week. They're playing poker with fake money. They're playing poker for pretzel sticks. It really doesn't matter what they do. The money's guaranteed, which affords them the ability to tell the stories how they want to tell them. But, in a traditional wrestling booking sense, the obvious move was Sami winning that match and then taking the title off him a couple weeks later. I'm not advocating sending him to WrestleMania with the belt. I'm not advocating turning it into a 3-way. None of that. I would still do Roman versus Cody because I still think that's a strong match. And as far as this being a historical reign from any other standpoint, it's not. I mean, in 20 years, decades from now, when people talk about this Roman Reigns title run that he's on right now, they're not going to talk about the matches. They're not going to talk about the length of the run. They're not going to talk about historical moments. They're going to talk about the bloodline. They're going to talk about talking segments on SmackDown. They're going to talk about the storyline of the bloodline and things of that nature. That's what they're going to talk about. Because when you look at his 28 title matches or whatever it is, there aren't a lot of classic matches.
There really isn't. There really, we did that segment a couple weeks ago, and it's pretty bare. It's
pretty dire. I mean, there's a couple. I mean, and there's not a lot of classic moments. You've got Brock Lesnar with the tractor. You've got the Logan Paul match, I guess, in Saudi Arabia.
Well, it's also gone up for so long that you forget some of these matches. Like somebody brought up like the Edge and Daniel Bryan thing where he stacked them up, and I'm like, holy shit, that's the same reign. You're right. It's like I forget. It's been so long, and it's not that great of a match either. But still, it's like
that's not any kind of great historical match anyway. I mean, that's a nice match, I guess. But this is not a reign that's going to be remembered for its matches and its moments. It's going to be remembered for the Bloodline storyline. You know, I don't know if you saw the Jack Farmer tweet.
Oh my God, no. Go on.
So Jack Farmer,
Jumpin' Jack,
Jack Farmer put out a tweet. Do you know who Jack Farmer is? He's like a media person. He's done some wrestling stuff. So he put out a tweet saying, and I'm paraphrasing, and you can pull it up while I'm talking, I guess. He said the word challenge was in there, so that's an easy way to say it. He said, I challenge anyone to come up with a more historical title reign than this Roman Reigns reign. He is defended against nothing but Hall of Famers and this and that. If you got it, read it verbatim.
All right, let me see if I can find it here.
So anyway, what was funny was...
it's February 19th. I challenge you to find any single world title reign with a list of defenses that is this stacked. Current Hall of Famers, future Hall of Famers. I believe he means Hall of Famers there. A few that may be the GOAT. The former world champions and crossover stars, ridiculous how dominant at WWE Roman Reigns, adding to Roman Reigns is so dorky too, has been.
All right, now stop right there. So he's talking about how historical the reign is because of all the great Hall of Famers that he's faced and how nobody has ever faced this level of star in a title reign. Matt Farmer, no relation, was the first person to reply.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Hold on.
My man. All right.
Hold on. Immediately laughed at it and just used Bruno as an example and immediately ran off 15 Hall of Famers that Bruno faced just in MSG alone. Just in MSG alone. 15 slam dunk certifiable Hall of Famers that Bruno faced in one building. Go ahead and read the Matt Farmer tweet.
I can't find it. I'm looking. Twitter's such a fucking disaster these days. I can't seem to find it here.
Let's see if I can find it. So if I pull up at Jack Farmer.
It says really Koloff, Graham, Patera, Brody, Hanson, Ladd, Valentine, Tolis, Blassie, Kowalski, Don Leo, Sheik, Monsoon, Miller, Iacare are all Hall of Famers. There's some on the fence too. Plus those are only matches from one building.
Yeah. And you know, he had said previous to that, you know, the Roman's list of challengers can't match any of the old school world champions in terms of great opponents that they faced. And it's like, if you look at the Jack Farmer tweet, he got shit on. He got ratioed. There really aren't a lot of people who consider this a legendary title reign. They really, and that even includes a lot of people who are strictly WWE. Like there's no doubt a lot of WWE hardcores who only watch that company, who are, you know, under 50 or whatever, wherever you want to draw the line, who do think that this is some great title reign because Michael Cole constantly tells you it is. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. But what I'm also saying is there's a lot of people who are really enjoying the Bloodline and really think that Roman Reigns is doing a great job, who are like, no, this isn't really a great title reign from that standpoint. Even though all this other
I'm looking at the
great.
replies, and you think all the replies, and yes, there are a lot of replies that are like Okada in 2016 or Kobashi, you know, GHC or whatever. Obvious ones. But there's also people being like, I don't know, Cena 07 or whatever. You know what I mean? There's like Fed fans that are like, I don't know, like, you know, John Cena this year is pretty damn good. Like a lot of them, again, are like, you know, Okada and Kobashi and those sort of things. And obviously Bruno and whatnot. But yeah, you're right. There are a few Fed fans that are like, well, what about this one? You know, so yeah, it is weird. I have seen kind of the worm turn on that a little bit, where I think a lot of people are like, the story's good, but let's back it down a little. Let's reel this in a little bit. And that's a lot of people that you know, I have seen that really love the story being told with the Bloodline and love the ups and downs and that sort of stuff. And we kind of roll our eyes at that or whatever. But a lot of those people I still will not fall over themselves to call this like an all-time great reign. I think a lot of them realize that it's like, it's fine. It's perfectly okay. But the matches are just not, you know, he's found a style that works for him and it works for, you know, reaction that he gets or whatever, but they're not, you know, they're not really great matches. Like, the Sami Zayn match is going to be one of the best matches of that entire reign.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have... He's got 28 total title matches so far. Maybe 5 or 6 of them are what you would call great matches, maybe, like, are very good matches. There's not a single match of the year contender. We could agree on that, because none of them have won match of the year. None of them have challenged.
Close. They haven't even come close, even by their own awards.
Right, like, none of them have challenged for match of the year. None of them have won a match of the year. None of them have come close. But there's probably a half a dozen that you would call very good matches. The Cesaro match comes to mind. This Sami Zayn match.
I like that Riddle match a lot.
The Riddle TV match was pretty good. Maybe the the Daniel Bryan matches were kind of a letdown.
I didn't like them. I really didn't like them, honestly. In real time, we felt like the only people that were like, I don't know, they're fine.
And there's the Logan Paul match. I thought was a great match.
That was great.
And then there's a bunch of junk, like the community theater Jey Uso matches, which weren't any good. Finn Balor, the Demon, where his fucking heart starts to beat. And, the Cena match was, I was all right.
Speaking of, did you see that they added John Cena to a show and it immediately sold like 2,000 tickets?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So just for no reason whatsoever, I'm going to point that out, Joe. Not in any way related to what we're talking about, but yeah, they announced Cena for a show. I forget where, and it sold like 2,000 tickets immediately.
Yeah,
so.
and I'm going to tie that into a larger point. Actually,
you have a point, because I was just bringing it up for no reason whatsoever, but you have a point to wrap in. Okay, interesting.
The Kevin Owens match at Royal Rumble was a nothing match. The Kevin Owens Last Man Standing, where they couldn't find the keys to the handcuffs, was an absolute disaster. It's like, this is not. So here's the thing. They're so worried about the legacy of this great title reign and here's another big point. He's a heel who always cheats to win. He's won like 4 of these matches clean. So they're going through these great pains to protect this alleged historical title run when it's not. You want to call it a legendary storyline or a great storyline? Okay. That's what this is. This isn't a historical title reign from a numeric standpoint. As we've pointed out, there's many title reigns in this company that have been longer than this one, and he's not catching some of them. It's not a historical title reign from the standpoint of great matches by any means. It's not a historical title reign in kayfabe. In kayfabe, he's a cheater. In kayfabe, he's an insecure. His whole story. Here's the other thing. So many people are whiffing on what the story.
Right. They think he's a dominant champion that beats everybody and is so much better than everybody else. And he always needs his cronies to help him win every single match.
People think this is such a great story, and half these people don't even understand the fucking story. The story.
Roman needs to get in his next match. Say, I don't win any match clean. My brothers have to help me. Usos help me. Then they'll understand it. Maybe. But right now they do not, unfortunately. So
here again, for whoever needs to hear this, the whole point of the bloodline in Roman Reigns is that Roman never met his expectations, is woefully insecure about it, surrounds himself with cronies who he manipulates to do his bidding to keep him on top because he's not good enough to stay on top. That's the story. And half these people think the story is he's a dominant force on top who nobody can beat. The story is he's an insecure guy who manipulates everyone around him to help keep him on top, which is why he never wins clean. That's the story. And half these people who think if this story was any good, maybe you people would understand it. You don't even understand the story. It goes over everybody's head. How great can it be? Maybe they need to talk more during these matches. Rich, maybe they're not talking enough.
I was say the next match he needs to just stop and say, all right, so here's where it all started. So how did I get here? All right, let's sit down. Yeah, that we might need that. Yeah, it's pretty wild. And I think another aspect of this whole thing, too, is that you're right that they're protecting Roman Reigns' reign and they're protecting this arbitrary number and stuff. And they're kind of too caught up in this. But I also think, and I know it's hard for people to believe because Paul's booking now and he's good. And Vince was bad, Joe. Remember that? How Vince was bad, but Paul is good? They don't think Sammy's a guy. And they didn't they're not that super happy that he got to the point where he got to. They didn't really plan for him to get where he got to. They weren't really ready for him to get where he got to. So what they did is they didn't have him win. And they want you to forget how good he got and forget that this happened and push it off to the side. I know that good is Paul and bad is Vince, but this is kind of not good booking. This is bad. This is bad, dumb booking where this isn't the guy that we wanted, and this isn't a guy that looks like the guy that we want to champion. So he's not the fucking champion. Yes, I think it's partly Roman Reigns, and they don't want to ruin the reign, and they yada yada yada. Just think Sami wasn't their guy. They didn't want Sami to get over. He got over, and this is the way that they figured out how to get out of it. With hopefully you not being that mad about it.
Well, everyone's giving Paul Levesque credit for this. This story has predominantly taken place under Vince. It started under Vince, and
yeah. Oh, I know.
And then the Sami thing was a fucking accident. The Sami thing was a 3-week storyline, and Sami got hot, and they couldn't move away from it. And so there's no stroke of genius there either. If you want to give Levesque credit for sticking with Sami when it was obvious it was hot, okay. But that wasn't the intent. And then they didn't have the balls to follow through with it. They did not stick the landing. And all to protect this alleged historical title reign, which they have convinced some people. I'm not going to say, and that's a wrestling promoter's job to convince you of things. I understand that. As we've demonstrated, it's not historical from a number standpoint. It's not historical from a match quality standpoint. It's not historical from big moments standpoint. It's not historical from a kayfabe standpoint because he's a cowardly heel who cheats to retain it. He's not truly a dominant champion. He's a guy who tells you he's a dominant champion because that's the heat. Because he's not a dominant champion. He's a cheater. So, and they're protecting this thing that isn't a historic. That seems to be more important to them. And, maybe Cody will be the one to beat him, but Cody could have been the one Cody could have won the title anyway. And you could have served all masters here.
Well, what's weird too is like the retconning. I've seen some people saying, well, the story is Cody beating Roman. No, it's not. What are you talking about? Cody
became the story in the last month.
Right, because Cody's there and he's hot and he won the Royal Rumble. The story is not Cody beating Roman.
The story was The Rock and they couldn't get him.
Right, exactly. Right. So it's like I hear that. It's like, oh, no. If Cody's going to get that moment no matter what, you know what I mean? Whether Roman won the title, then lost the title, then wanted to get, it does not matter. The Cody moment is that Cody holds the title up in WrestleMania while a bunch of fireworks go off behind him, right? That's the story. That's the moment. That's the thing or whatever. It's not the story. It has never been the story. So this idea that oh, well, no, truly the story is Cody. Where? How? Why? Because right now they're trying to tell that Cody story and they're not doing a very good job of it, to be honest.
Cody was Cody was feuding with Darby Allin when this story started.
Right.
How is he the story?
Right.
What are we doing here?
Right. And
Cody was putting over MJF when this story began.
Right. He was.
Come on.
It's just, and it's not like the story guy's been gone. He's been out for a year. So, it's
now listen, Cody's story is winning the title.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Roman's story has nothing to do. Cody's story is 1, 2, 3, ding, 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 holding the title up while a bunch of fireworks are behind him. It doesn't fucking matter who else is in the ring with him. That's the Cody story. The Cody story is Cody Rhodes, the son of Dusty Rhodes, the guy that was running AEW, who's now in WWE, has just won the title in the main event of WrestleMania. Here's all these fireworks. You know what I mean? That's the story. That. It's not the story. So the idea that you can't have Sami derail the story. What story? Because right now the story that they're telling right now is that Paul Heyman wants to fuck Brandy Rhodes. That's what they're doing, right? Because they're trying to figure out what the fuck. There is no story.
Well, the bloodline story was fucking Sami. That was the story.
Yes, I know. It was The Rock. Oh, The Rock's not going to come. You know what? It'll be Sami. No, it's not Sami either. Okay, we don't know what the story is. Fine.
They didn't get The Rock, but they were gift wrapped Sami.
Yes.
And they still didn't nail it.
They fucked it up. Yep.
They still blew it. To protect what? This fake idea of a historical reign, which isn't historical in any way. It's amazing how badly they botched this, but
you could tell. I mean, you could tell. The thing with this too is that say Sami does win, you now tell the story, and you could do a lot of stuff with the story if Sami wins this thing. And let's say he doesn't have to have a super long reign or whatever that's going to be. But now you fractured the bloodline. You have Uso, who's with Sami and Kevin Owens, and they're on one side against Roman and Sikoa and the other Uso. So you have trios matches that you can set up and stuff. Paul Heyman's in between this thing. There's a lot of ways you could go. But Sami being the one to finally fracture the bloodline and make Uso decide, you know what, fuck this shit. I don't need this. That guy's my real guy. I ride with this guy. I don't ride with you guys anymore. And Owens coming back to Sami, that's got some juice to it. What's the juice now? Fucking nothing, man.
Roman is at best the third hottest guy in the company. At best.
Yeah.
if Cena's around.
I was going to say, if Cena comes back anytime soon, whoa.
I mean, and the ratings don't listen. The ratings don't lie. How many weeks in a row we didn't talk about ratings this week, but we usually talk ratings at the top of the show, and these big quarter hours are always Sami and Cody.
Mm-hmm.
Roman's not even on the show half the time. He's not even always on the show. And as Dave Meltzer pointed out, these SmackDown ratings and Raw ratings, Roman's presence never makes a difference, positive or negative.
That was funny that Dave mentioned that this week, right? He's finally caught up to us.
Yeah. I mean, we've been preaching that. It doesn't make a difference, positive or negative. When Roman takes a week off, the ratings don't plummet. When Roman's around, the ratings don't spike. You know when the ratings spike? When Sami or Cody have a segment. That's fact. People can look that up. Whatever outlet of choice. Pay WrestleNomics $5. Pay Dave $11.99 or whatever his thing costs. What does Dave cost? $12.99 maybe? These are all facts.
I've auto-paid since like 2008. I have no earthly idea.
I don't know what it costs either. Yeah. But the point is, or listen to this show where we fucking take the information that they gather and share it with everybody. With full credit, of course. But these are facts. I'm not making it up. So, I don't know. Look, but again, we make fools of ourselves. I scream and yell into the microphone, and my blood pressure raises. For what reason? The money's guaranteed. It doesn't matter what they do. WrestleMania is not going to bomb because they had a terrible finish in Montreal at Elimination Chamber. It's not going to matter. WrestleMania is going to do the same business it was going to do either way, and all of the money is guaranteed. The tickets are sold for WrestleMania. The media rights deals are all guaranteed. It does not fucking matter. It's so funny how Nick Khan was on with Bill Simmons and kept alluding to it's easy to run a business when you don't have to worry about making money, right? He said that alluding to AEW, right? With the implication being that Tony Khan is just running at a loss, and there's no evidence of that.
Just says Daddy with his hands in the, and then Daddy gives him a check, and he goes, "Thank you." And then
it's Nick Khan playing an angle.
He calls him kid. He's done a lot of that. He's called him kid, and he elicits
being condescending, and
silver spoon and stuff. And
but the reality is, the reality is that applies more to WWE. It's their decision making that doesn't matter. It's their decision making that doesn't really make a difference in terms of how much money they make or not. It's funny how he doesn't realize that. And maybe he does.
No, he does. He does. He knows what he's doing.
He's not going to say that, but it's really the reverse. These decisions do not matter, because it's all guaranteed. In another place and time, Sami would have won that fucking match in an era of non-guaranteed money, because it was clearly the correct decision. But anyway, at some point here, we were reviewing that match. Yeah, the finish sucked. It was a television finish.
The other thing, too, the finish. It was because I'm thinking, all right, here we go. We're going to get the swivel the hips, and the Usos going to hit Sami and say, I was always with you. But then Sami's the one that hits him.
Yeah.
By accident, of course, but still, he's the one that hits him. And that's what leads to the finish, which is such a fucking limp dick finish.
It's a terrible finish. I get it, but it's a TV finish. You know what I mean? It's a TV finish. It's not a pay-per-view finish. It wasn't the right finish for this crowd.
Listen to the noise that crowd makes. Go back and listen. It's 1, 2, 3, and it's not boos. It's not it's silent. It's
air out of a balloon.
Yeah, it's
this is really how they're going to do this.
And that's not good, man. That's not good. Like that's
and then Sami does the hell of a kick after the match, and his music plays. But the passion's gone.
No,
I mean there's people cheering, but they're not losing their minds like they were.
Did you hear his comments on the post-show presser?
He was deflated.
He was fucking pissed,
and he was not working. He was deflated. Because he knows.
This is it. He got to the mountaintop. He did all that he could possibly do to get himself over. They always say grab the brass ring. prove that you're a star. This motherfucker did everything that he could possibly do over the last 6 months to get to that spot, to get to the top spot, to get to a main event match in his hometown for the title. And he's drawing business. He's drawing ratings.
He's over more than the guys.
Yes, and he knows it. He's not an idiot. He knows it. And he knows he showed up to the building that day or whenever it was, and they said, Sammy, this is the finish. And he knew that's it. I'm never going to get here again. This is as high as it's going to be for me. This is it. I have reached the mountaintop, and it's done. This is the best it's ever going to be. This is a guy that I'm sure he thought he was washed up a couple years ago. We came on the show and said that he was washed years ago, and he fucking got here. He got here, all the way here, and it was over. And he said it's like going to a Georges St. Pierre fight in Montreal, and he loses.
Yeah,
it would suck, and we would all hate it.
he was deflated, and he knew deep down that there was never going to be another moment like this.
He's staring down his own mortality, realizing, well, that's it.
Yeah. And the last thing he said was, wins, losses, they come and go.
Yeah.
I'll see you later, guys. He was deflated.
Yeah, he's done.
Because as a pro wrestler, he put in all this work. He got over when he wasn't supposed to. It was supposed to be a 3-week deal. And he, like you said, he did the thing that they tell you to do. And it that goes to show it's bullshit. It goes to show that it's bullshit.
Oh, that's weird though, because it was because Vince was and he was the bad one though, right? Vince is bad.
Vince is the bad
Paul
one.
is good, right?
Triple H is a genius.
Okay, so Vince bad, Paul good. Well, who's booking this one?
Name another story on his show that anyone gives a shit about for this alleged genius.
Paul,
booker.
You're talking about the good one, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Name one. Name one.
Yeah.
But
give me a couple minutes. I'll work on it.
And this is one he didn't even start, and then didn't finish properly when he had a chance to finish it properly. Sammy's smart enough to understand that, and Sammy's one of the great performers of his generation. He was one of the greatest wrestlers of his generation before he stepped foot in the WWE, and he proved here that even with a beaten up body and he's still a great wrestler, but limited ability compared to his he's got to be early 40s by now, or close to it, that he still understands how to get over, and he did get over, and he's the hottest star in the company, and it did not matter. And that's why he was so deflated in that presser.
Right. He did everything that they want you to do and tell you to do and scream about, and grabbing brass rings and grabbing it by the balls and proving that you're a star. He did all of it. And they told him, go fuck yourself. You're done.
You, sir, will win your tag team titles 4th from the top on night 2 of WrestleMania, and you will like it.
Yep.
And you will like it. That's what you get.
On WrestleMania Goes to Hollywood Sunday, you can win your tag team titles. Yes.
Yeah, 4th from the top. That's what you get. That's what you earn by getting over as the hottest star in the company. That's it. That goes to show. And I hope everyone there is watching. Everyone in NXT, everybody else trying to climb the card. Unless you're Austin Theory, I hope you're paying attention, because it doesn't matter. Because the money's guaranteed, and it affords them the ability to, they could afford to not go with the hot hand. So you could do all that work you want, but if you're not the chosen one, it's not going to matter. And that's why he was so deflated. And, it was interesting to watch. It really was. He used a lot of the same verbiage that Bryan Danielson used after that WrestleMania main event we just talked about, the one with Edge, where Bryan Danielson said, I didn't feel like I main evented WrestleMania. I felt nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't feel special. I felt nothing. And that's what this company does to you. Everyone chases the moment. And then,
which is what's funny about that too, is like in the presser, people were kind of like, hey, Sammy, like it must have been amazing to be in front of Montreal with that crazy crowd. And that's not how he answered it. Yeah. Like you said, he's like, guys, honestly, I don't feel anything. I feel weird.
He's like, I don't know how I feel right now.
Right.
And this is what he's saying. He's like, I feel
people
weird.
were like smiling, like, man, what a moment. Yeah. Like, you were in front of, 19,000 people and they were cheering. And that wasn't the face of a man that was just happy that he was in front of his home crowd doing it. Yeah. The people at the presser thought they were going to get like, hey, you know what? I tried my best, but God damn, what a moment that was. And it's really incredible to be in Montreal. And that's not what they got. They got, like you said, I felt nothing. I feel weird. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how I feel right now.
They got a dose of reality. Those clapping seal folks in that room who don't understand wrestling. They just don't understand wrestling. They just take what that company feeds them, and they want to tell Triple H how great he is, and someone else did that again, if you could fucking believe it.
The question was great.
Yeah.
Triple H, not everybody has found but you have done an incredible job so far at the transition.
No, the guy actually said, you've been so incredible in your transition. Everyone agrees.
Oh, that's right. He said everybody agrees, right?
Yeah, he said everyone agrees that you've just been so. How is it that you're able to be so great at this? And Triple H was so embarrassed. He was like, well, I don't know if everyone agrees.
That's right. He was like, I don't know if everybody agrees, but
even he was embarrassed
by the elusive praise of the praise. Yeah, even he was.
Even he was like, this is cringe. I can't listen to this.
Right. You fucking marks. God damn it.
Yeah.
The clapping seals.
The clapping or that's
Byron
what they are
Saxton.
in that room.
All right, seals, here comes a superstar. Yeah. Clap for him.
Or that's the media.
Get fish thrown to them. They don't even get fish thrown to them. They don't get anything.
They should throw sardines at these people. The guy that said how is it that you're able to be so great?
How are you so great, sir?
They should have thrown him a fucking sardine to catch in his mouth. And that's what they here's a treat for the fucking clapping seal. They clapped when Edge came in, and Edge was like, geez, I don't know why you're clapping. Like, even Edge is like, the fucking, like, clapping? So, then Brandon Thurston actually does ask Triple H, how do you feel about a potential sale? Because Triple H has never been put on the record about this. If you can believe it, Triple H has never been put on the record about how he feels about the company being for sale. So Brandon asked him the question. And Rich, you actually have blue check mark wrestling media personalities on Twitter blasting Brandon Thurston.
I know, I saw that. I so badly wanted to get back on Twitter and just say, you fucking idiots. Are you kidding? One guy asked a real question, and people are, that's the question you ask? You get Triple H, and that's the question you ask? Yes!
Yeah!
He's on the board of directors for a company that's telling you they're going to be sold.
Yeah. Yeah.
You ask an executive in the company that's on the board of directors about the massive potential sale going on in the company.
Well, it was that stat guy Greg, who's one of the dumbest people imaginable that has a voice. I mean, so it's not surprising, but it's crazy. Like, you get a decent question, you put a guy on the spot to go on record with the biggest story in wrestling. Listen, get this through your heads. Get this through your fucking heads. It's the biggest story in wrestling. Yes, you ask him. Yes, you ask him. Thank God for Brandon. And Pollock had that hand up.
He did. Yeah. I'm sure he would have asked a good question too. I'm positive of it.
I know Pollock had a good one. He had that hand up and was ready. He didn't get called on. You can't make him call on you. So I try to tell people.
I can't believe they called on Brandon. They're like, Brandon, they're like, and I saw it and they cut to him and I'm like, oh God, that's Brandon. Uh-oh. Here
Rubbing
we go.
the hands together. Yeah.
I'm like, here we go. And what was good about that too, and did Triple H give much of an answer? He didn't. But we always say non-answers are answers.
Yeah.
Look at his body language. He squirmed in the chair a little bit, got a little, comfortable and said, ultimately, he didn't say anything. He kind of danced around it a little bit, but eventually said, it is what it is. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I have the greatest job in the world. And, I stay out of it. Yeah. Do you? Because you did a board. You voted to let Vince McMahon back in the board of directors. So,
at the end of the day, it is what it is. Yeah. I mean, that a non-answer can be an answer, and being evasive is
an answer,
right? I mean that
because Brandon did say, especially with Vince McMahon back in the fold or whatever, back in the company or whatever, and Triple H did not respond to that part. So,
yeah. So
and then, I'm loving the seals.
Yeah, I don't want to overdo it, but
don't please don't make the noise again. But I would love to see, Byron Saxton. They're like, all right, who wants it? Just tossing sardines in the crowd.
Matt Camp jumping up for one.
Matt Camp's there. He hosts the show. You can't have him there.
It's ridiculous.
And then the one person asked, and they're like, I forget what it was, some woman in the front row or whatever. She's like, hi, I'm from da-da-da-da-da. I'm WWE's social media ambassador for the weekend. And I'm like, what are we doing?
What is that?
What are we doing?
Yeah, why is that person
I felt
getting
so
the
bad
question?
for John Pollock and Brandon Thurston and these people that have to sit next to. Hi, I'm the social media ambassador. Let me ask you. And Matt Cam, you host a show on the network.
Matt Cam,
you're not allowed to be there.
Oh God. Oh, jeez. Ah, man. Yeah, but I know, but honestly, though, in a vacuum, I did think it was a good match. It would have been a great match if they would have nailed the finish, cut down on some of the other bullshit. It got in my notebook. That's a low-level notebook batch to me. Rich, I liked the show. I thought Elimination Chamber was a pretty good show. I thought Brock Lesnar, Bobby Lashley fucking rocked. I mean, I love that match. We're like the last two people on earth who enjoy the Brock, energy that he brings to things. But when it comes to Brock, it's almost like they skip right to the closing stretch of the match, but it doesn't feel like you've been cheated of anything. It's just, let's get down to business and see who can beat the other guy up in under 5 minutes. And I love that. And crowds are always super amped for Brock, and Lashley's a great opponent for that. And then Brock just destroying everybody after the match. I didn't even mind the DQ.
I didn't mind it either because it works. Brock's like, I can't beat this guy, fuck it, and just punches him in the dick. You know,
kicks him in the dick. Yeah.
Yes, we are the last two people on earth that like these Brock matches, but I love it because he's like, I don't know, this guy might beat me. Fuck this, boom! It just punches.
He was about to lose, so instead of losing to the full Nelson, he said, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna kick the guy in the dick."
He knew. Shit, I might lose this match. All right, fuck it, I'm just gonna kick him in the dick and see what happens, and
then beat everybody up. Yeah.
Right.
And I thought it was the best match on the show. Easy notebook for me. I thought it was great. The men's elimination chamber was a good spot fest style for that. I mean,
I don't like elimination chamber matches because
I don't like them either.
I heard that this one was great, and then I watched it and it was over, and I was like, meh. I don't know. I guess they're just not for me. I didn't think it was great.
No, it wasn't great. It was good. I'd call it very good. Even.
Yeah. Montez was great in it, and he's another example of a guy that it's like, you guys, do you not see what you have in this guy? Do you not understand what you have? And the answer is no, because they had him curb stomped and they did the pity, like, all right, we're gonna have this guy lose, but let's have the medical people take him out of the ring so that he'll get a pity clap or whatever. And then they sent him packing, and then it was okay. Now it's time for the real stars, Austin Theory and Seth Rollins. So it's like, all right.
And they set up the Logan Paul Seth Rollins WrestleMania match, which
is going to rock too, by the way.
I think that has a chance to be great
because Logan Paul rules. So
I think that has a chance to be great, and Seth is a perfect opponent for him. The only question I have is what happened to Logan Paul Ricochet after they did all that shit at the Royal Rumble.
Poor Ricochet.
I
know you're earnestly asking, but I love it that it's like poor Ricochet. Oh man.
So I guess we're never doing this.
Shucks.
Right? Yeah. Paducah, Kentucky, right?
I think so. Yeah, he doesn't actually talk like that. I didn't do the "aw shucks" because he's from Kentucky. I just did the "aw shucks" because that's like a.
I thought you were doing a Kentucky accent.
No. But you're right. He probably has a little bit of a twang to him. But just the idea of him sitting back there eating catering. He's putting a cantaloupe in his mouth, and all of a sudden Logan Paul coming out, and he's like, oh man,
yeah,
I'm not getting that spot, am I? It's like shit. All right.
So I mean, the main event, I thought, was with its flaws, was still, I thought Roman and Sami did a great job. The Elimination Chamber was very good, the men's, and I thought Brock and Bobby Lashley fucking rocked. More of that, please. Instead, we're getting Brock versus Omos. I thought that
he's going to beat Omos in like a minute, so it's not, and then Omos is going to get fired. So I think we're fine.
Now the women's chamber was a nothing match. I don't even have anything to say,
dude. I hate. WWE does this story a lot, and I don't know why anybody would want to watch this. Why do I want to watch somebody who doesn't want to wrestle?
Yeah.
Why am I interested in watching Carmella not wrestle? Because the whole story of the match is that she's scared and doesn't want to wrestle.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
I want to watch Stan Hansen, like you said. You know what I mean? I want to watch fucking. Why do I want to watch somebody not want to wrestle?
Well, telling stories, right?
Okay, well, that story fucking stinks. You know what I like? People that want to wrestle and want to win a match. And here's Carmella running into the pods and screaming and going, ah! Like, great.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. Cornball shit. That's WWE. It's cornball shit. I did enjoy Liv Morgan getting eliminated like immediately.
The star-making performance. Yeah, I think she came out, and I was like, I remember watching this, and I was like, all right, let's see. There's gonna be a good opportunity for her. And then I forget what happened, but she just like, boom, boom, out. hit the bricks, Liv, and they're like, ding, 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 Liv Morgan has been eliminated. I'm just like, oh, all right, well.
I think they've finally given up the ghost with her. I mean, they gave her an honest chance, or as honest a chance as you're going to get in this company. It didn't work. I mean, you remember how, she was brutal during that period where they tried to push her, and she just doesn't have it. It was a nothing match. And then Beth Phoenix and Edge versus Judgment Day. Beth Phoenix, I thought, was abysmal in this
She was
match.
so bad. Did you hear the presser? Because John Pollock did ask a good question to Beth in a roundabout way. Did you hear the question that he asked her?
Yeah, he asked her about preparation, basically saying, because you haven't wrestled in a while, basically saying, because you fucking stunk.
Yes, it was great. Again, a good way to do this presser. He's like, how do you attack, returning to the ring after time away? Like, how do you ramp up to get ready to go to, like, essentially, why were you so bad at this? Like, you knew this match was coming, right? Like, why are you so terrible? But and then she has the audacity to dress up as Bull Nakano. Get the hell out of here with your Bull Nakano cosplay.
Look, she's been a pretty good performer in this part-time role. She was bad in this match. There was a bunch of messy spots. There was one pin save where she was about 5 minutes late and the referee looked like a total goof.
Yeah.
Her timing was all off with shit like that. She just was not good at all. I didn't think much of that match, but it wasn't terrible or anything. She was terrible. Nothing on the show was terrible. I thought 3 of the matches were good. And the other 2 kind of just were there. And overall, this was one of the better WWE pay-per-views in a long time. If Sami would have won...
Oh, it would have been one of the best ones in a long, long, long time.
Yeah, this would have been a legitimately great show. That was the difference. This went from being a pretty good show, and it would have been a great show if Sami would have won and he's holding up that belt and the crowd's going nuts and that music is playing. This would have been a great, great show. As it was still, to me, one of the better... I can't remember the last WWE pay-per-view that I liked as much as this one, because I didn't hate anything on it, and I really, really liked 3 of the 5 matches. How many matches? 5 matches? 5 matches.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5. Yeah.
Because these fucking chamber matches take forever.
I know. And they the worst part about them too. Well, it's the worst and the best is when you're watching this, because I didn't watch this one live.
The introductions. Oh my
but if you watch like 2 days after, Joe, you skip all the introductions. The video flies by.
Yeah.
You can't believe it. You're like, what? Why did it take so long to do like the WWE entrances? I don't watch any WWE entrances anymore. They take forever. You don't realize how long they take until you start skipping them. And then you're like, oh my God. Like, I just saved so much time not watching Liv Morgan have to, do the whole, ding, ding. Then she comes out and she's twirling and it's like, you just skip all that. You're good. And then the bell rings. You're like, all right, perfect. Because these matches, especially like the men's one, which was a 30-minute, chamber match, add in, 5 or 6 entrances. It just took forever. But no, you don't have to, you just skip them.
So did you like the show or did you not like the show?
I think I liked it. I think ultimately I liked it. I think the end, it ended me on a sour note, watching Roman and Sami. But
yeah.
And I watched that part live. It was good because the dunk contest ended right when they were hitting the ring. So that was perfect. I was able to watch that live, which certainly helped. But, going back and rewatching the show then, the next day, there was a lot that I liked on it, but ultimately, it does feel kind of like a wet fart ending though, because just the way that so, but I agree with you that if that ending, if they nailed that, it'd been really good. It'd have been really, really good show. But ultimately with that ending, I'm kind of in the middle here, but better than most of the pay-per-views have been.
I love shows that have super hot crowds like that for somebody.
And they were hot for everything too.
If it just would have delivered, you would have had a very much a Daniel Bryan Kofi type moment for Sami Zayn there in Montreal. Would have been really, really great. Okay, so we have so much shit to get to. Rich, speaking of clapping seals, we gotta do this Helwani.
Yes, let's talk about Ariel Helwani. Let's do it.
So my man pops up on SmackDown with the WWE branded fucking microphone he's part of the show. That was very clearly part of the show. And then he pops up on the pre-show panel at the pay-per-view, once again, very clearly as part of the show. After the SmackDown appearance, Tony Khan tweets out that he's a fraud. You could pull up the tweet and read it verbatim if you like. And this all dates back to the friction that Helwani and Khan had in the aftermath of their interview. Now, on I believe it's the October 22nd flagship. I don't know if that's the exact date. I don't have the date. but I do have the last time we talked about.
Let me see if I can find it. Keep talking. I'll see if I find it.
I think check late October, but because I just listened last night.
October 14th, 2022 was the show.
So that's the show. And I even have timestamps for people. Okay, so it's about 34 minutes in on that October 14th flagship where we talk about the Helwani situation, and the segment runs about a half hour. I lost my damn timestamp. It's about 34 minutes. The point here is, I don't have a lot to add from the last time we talked about it. It's funny, though, Rich, that we closed the segment with saying, now we know what Helwani's about, and the mask is off, and there's no facade. He's not a journalist, and now he can go do all of the WWE pre-show panels he wants and do their bidding because he's Nick Khan's boy, and it's very clear that he has no interest in being a fair and journalist in this meeting. And that was our conclusion at the end of that 30 to 40-minute chat we had about Helwani the first time. We defended the questions he asked Tony Khan because they were fair questions. Tony didn't want to answer his questions. We agreed that Tony was a shitty interview, but didn't want to answer anything. We agreed with that. What we took issue with was that when he had a chance to interview Paul Levesque, it was softball city. It wasn't the same energy. No questions about Vince McMahon, which is completely absurd. Then he doubled down in the aftermath, defending the idea that he didn't ask Paul Levesque any questions about Vince McMahon, which was completely absurd. So at that point, you and I hand-waved Ariel Helwani. Mm-hmm. We said, we know what this guy's about now. We all know he's Nick Khan's boy. And, he's not he's not going to be a serious journalist when it comes to wrestling. That's all there is to it. And what's funny here is the aftermath of this Khan stuff. He now admits that he's not a serious journalist when it comes to wrestling. But here's the problem, Rich. And here's the problem I have with Helwani now. And I feel like it's going to be similar to the problem you have with him now. If you don't want to be a wrestling journalist, that's great. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. If you want to appear on WWE programming because you don't consider yourself a wrestling journalist, again, I don't have a problem with that. But you can't interview the heaviest hitters in pro wrestling like Tony Khan and Paul Levesque and Nick Khan and these people, and then also say that you're not a journalist.
Right. I agree.
You cannot have your cake and eat it too.
Right. Perfect.
You cannot have it both ways. That you can't do. You want to appear on pre-show panels, you want to hold a mic on SmackDown, that's fine. But once you start interviewing these people, you can't hide behind, hey guys, look, I'm not a journalist. It doesn't work that way. That's where I have a problem with him. And, that's basically an extension of the conversation we had with him last time. And here's the other thing you can't do.
Well, I was going to say on his show.
You can't report news.
Right. Well, and he's also an MMA news reporter, too, at the same time. Which I find kind of strange. If you're going to say, well, I'm not a journalist. But in MMA, no, I am a journalist for MMA, and I'm going to do MMA journalism here. But now once I talk about wrestling, no. That I'm just a fan now.
Yeah, can't do that. And the reason he's hiding behind that is because he knows he's wrong. I think deep down he knows he's wrong. And it's also immaterial to me whether he took money or not. He's part of the show. You could almost get away with just doing the little 5-minute spot on the pre-show panel. You can almost get away with that. Not in conjunction with appearing on SmackDown with a WWE microphone and doing spots.
No, that's you're on the show. You are a part of the show now.
You're a character on the show now. Whether you like it or not. And they're using you. And I know he understands that. He's not dumb. He thinks he's just out there having fun. That's fine. But then you can't press Tony Khan, then complain about how bad Tony Khan treated you on the interview, and then throw softballs at Paul Levesque. That you can't do while calling yourself a journalist and appearing on their show, whether you were paid or not. You can't be part of the show and then do those things and then say, I'm not a journalist. That's bullshit. You can't do that. And that's, I think, the problem that Tony Khan had with him when he saw him on SmackDown. It's like, look, man, you're a fraud.
No, you're trying to play it both ways now.
Yeah.
Wherever it's convenient for you is what you're trying to do here. And that fuck off.
And maybe Tony shouldn't waste his time tweeting things like that, but I'm sure he was upset in the moment. And then Helwani coming back with the snowman thing. Now listen, I don't have any problem with Helwani, as they say on the streets, Rich, clapping back. Okay? Maybe he should have thought that one through a little more.
You are well aware of the streets right now, man.
Listen, I spend a lot of time on the streets. You know, I don't know if you want to go there with that kind of implication. With a dude who's got money to burn and can litigate, and I'm sure Tony will just drop it here, or maybe he won't. Here's the other thing people need to remember. Tony Khan's tight with Dana White. And you know Dana White's history with Helwani, which I'm sure contributed to the fact that Tony Khan didn't want anything to do with Helwani. Because remember, one of the ideas behind that interview was Helwani started that interview by saying, man, Tony, I had to chase you down. You've been ignoring me for months. And he made Tony look bad right off the jump. I said, you've been ignoring me for months.
By the way, it was contentious. It was a contentious interview from the jump, and that's what we said too. Like, for all the people saying, like, and I agree that Tony didn't answer all the questions, but it started off very awkward and it never got any better. It started right from a position of I don't
why
respect
don't you like
you.
me?
I don't respect you, and why don't you like me? Why don't you like? But done in like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Why don't you respect me, Tony?
Way,
yeah, exactly. It was very, very smarmy. It wasn't a genuine "why don't you like me." It's just like a "Hey, Tony, why did you?" Very, very like
wise ass kind of way.
Right, exactly.
And Tony undoubtedly ate him up. And I agree that it was a horrible interview from that standpoint because he didn't get anything out of him. But Tony came into that thing not wanting to give him anything. And he wasn't going to give him anything on the Punk stuff anyway, because he hasn't talked about that with anyone. And, and Helwani then didn't practice what he preached with Levesque, Softball City. And that annoyed Khan. I'm sure that annoyed Khan, which is why I called him a fraud. Because then it turns out, now it also calls into question, how long have you been in bed with them? Now you're appearing on their TV and you're a television character. How long have you been in bed with them? And because we were suspicious after those two interviews of your intentions and where you stand. Then you appear on their TV. Now you confirm everyone's suspicions that you weren't being fair and that you're not fair. So it's fair for people to say, well, how long has this relationship existed? Because we already know you have the pre-existing relationship with Nick Khan. So I don't know. For Helwani, you got to pick a lane. Either you're the guy that just wants to have fun, who wants nothing to do with wrestling, or you're the guy who's going to score the biggest interviews in wrestling and do them fairly. You can't be both. So I don't know. That's my problem with him. What do you have anything to add?
Not really. I mean, nothing more than what we said in October when that became to me very obvious and very clear that like you said, the mask was off, and I knew where he stood then, and I was never going to take him seriously ever again as any sort of journalist. And so this new dust up to me was kind of surprising because I kind of thought everybody knew where it was, but maybe being on SmackDown was officially like now there's not even a bit of pretense. There's nothing keeping this guy between just being a straight up WWE employee at this point. You know what I mean? Like there's very little separating him from just being a guy on the show. And he was on the fucking show. You know what I mean? So getting shout outs on commentary and stuff and really like on the nose stuff. And then they were so gotten to all weekend. WWE was gotten to and Ariel Helwani was gotten to, and they were just on the offensive the entire time. And it's just so weird and just unnecessary. And like, what are you guys doing? It's just
he tried to ride that snowman thing through the whole weekend, and it's like he was living off the fumes of that one.
Right, we get it.
Comment. It's like, we heard you. Yes, yeah. You think he does coke? We heard you. You've said it over and over. Look. Everyone has a right to clap back, so to speak. They do. Okay, but I don't know if that was the wisest way to do it.
That's a tough road to go down. I mean, you have no idea what. I mean,
and you prove that? Can you back that up?
Right, insinuating that, and hell, what if this guy is like, hey, I'm on Adderall because I have ADHD or whatever, so thank you for making fun of me. Like, there's a lot of there's so many different weird ways this could go, or just straight up like, you just said that I do cocaine and I'm an executive for a company. Like, I'm allowed to dispute that, you know what I mean? Like that's a disparaging remark that could affect my my future business and stuff like that. There's a lot of ways that this could go if he really wanted to. So I don't know if he really necessarily wants to go down this road, but to him it's a game, and that's it's been that way from day one for me with Helwani. Is he thinks wrestling is a fucking game and it's a joke, and MMA is serious and I cover MMA, but this wrestling, come on, it's wrestling, like whatever, dude, I do whatever I want, who cares? Like and like you said, that then the connection to Nick Khan comes up, and that becomes a gateway to him, having whatever that relationship is going to be moving forward. So yeah, to me, I was never surprised. Like this last thing didn't surprise me because I already knew where it stood in October. Yeah. But for it to be as blatant and then so obvious, it's just like, okay, and what do we do? And then he's in that room. He's in the fucking press room later. At the end of it's like, get out of there.
And then he's making clarifications and reporting on the Saudi sale when all that was going down. Well, are you a journalist or not? And it's like, now how can we take anything you say from a journalistic standpoint when they may be paying you? You're a character on their show. You have as much credibility as Pete Rosenberg at this point, which is zero. So, it's it's not surprising, like you say, but I feel like he's a guy who I've lost a lot of respect for him because before any of this has gone down, I thought of him as a guy who stood up to Dana White, and I mean, if Dana White, if there were sexual abuse cover-ups in Dana White's company, do you think Ariel Helwani would have asked Dana White those questions?
Certainly.
If there were sexual abuse cover-ups and payoffs in AEW, do you think he would ask Tony Khan those questions?
Absolutely.
Then why didn't he ask Paul Levesque?
Great question.
I mean, that's all. That's where it comes down to.
Well, and then another thing, and Andrew brings up a great point in the No Dopes chat room, is that he says, quote, "It was also annoying and disingenuous that Helwani tried to spin TK's comment as a slam on Tony Schiavone." Because I don't know if you heard that part of it, but Tony Khan's like, you're no different than Tony Schiavone on my television show. And Helwani's like, oh, really disrespectful to your employees. And it's like, no, what he's saying is you're a character on their television show. That's all. Right. Tony Schiavone's not a hard-hitting. He's not getting an exclusive on Britt Baker. All right, Britt, let's tell me all about Adam Cole's concussions. It's like he's a character on the television show that asks kayfabe questions. Like, how do you not get it?
That was the analogy, and
right.
I'm not surprised that Roman Reigns' avatars on Twitter were too dumb to understand that. But I'm surprised that Ariel Helwani didn't understand that.
Well, he got owned and then had to tell everybody all weekend that he wasn't owned. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not owned. I'm not owned.
He was telling you you're Mean Gene Okerlund now. Is what he was telling you. He was telling you like Tony Schiavone is a paid employee of mine who's a character on my show, and now you're a paid employee of theirs who's a character on their show. That was the analogy. I figured anyone would have understood, but
never be too giving too much credit to Roman avatars and
Helwani more and more. Like, it's unbelievable that went over his head. But and he's gonna do his heel Wani shtick and everything, and it's like I've lost a lot of respect for him. I mean, and we kind of defended him the first time we talked about it from the standpoint of asking the right questions.
Right, he asked good questions to Tony and pressed him and didn't get the answers. And we said those were all good questions and they were the right questions to ask. And there was ultimately it was while it was contentious and he didn't come at it with the right attitude, he tried to ask good questions. But then, when then it was just like, oh, okay, never mind.
And then you asked Paul nothing. I mean, you asked Paul if Bray Wyatt's coming back. I mean, which is fine to ask if you're going to ask him some legitimate questions otherwise.
Yeah, amidst his father-in-law and the main person in the company, with rampant sexual assault allegations or whatever. Yeah, but now you don't. Yeah.
Well, now you're a clapping seal now, is what you are, and I never thought of him that way. But I mean, now do you think Tony should be tweeting out that he's a fraud? I mean, I don't know, probably not. And that kind of avoids all that, but he wanted to hammer home his point that, look, this is why I was contentious with this guy, because he's a fucking fraud. Now, look, here's the other thing you have to understand. Again, Tony's tight with Dana White. So he probably already came into this relationship, not like Helwani was probably correct in that Tony doesn't like him. But now Helwani, I don't know if you saw this, he called Tony kid the way Nick Khan does. Rich, they're both 40.
I was going to say, they're probably the same age. In fact, I would assume that Ariel Helwani might be younger than Tony Khan, actually. Are they the same age?
They're both 40.
Oh, fuck you, then. You can't.
I don't know who's older in terms of months or days, but...
You can't. That's fucking really disrespectful, then.
Yeah, when he went on his little show the next day, he's like, oh, and then this kid calls me a fraud. And it's like, he's picking up that verbiage from Nick Khan.
Yeah. Ariel is older by a couple months. He is July 8th, and Tony is October 10th, both of 1982.
Yeah. They're both 40 years old. They'd be in the same high school class.
Yes.
They would be in the same high school class.
What a fucking turd.
Like, but that tells you that's the verbiage they use.
Right. That's what's being said in conversations.
Along with Snowman and,
yeah,
everything else, which
I love the idea too of like the dunk on an executive in a wrestling company is this man does cocaine, which is like, I mean, all right. I'm fairly certain, Joe. I'm going out on a limb here that I would say some management in World Wrestling Entertainment and the World Wrestling Federation at some point probably dabbled in a little bit of the cocaine. I don't know that for a fact.
Oh,
but,
well, and some raping.
Well, yeah, that too. But and
a little bit of raping. Let's not leave out the raping. So yeah, I mean, what are we doing here? Right. I know it's like
if the worst thing a wrestling executive could do is do cocaine as opposed to
blow,
it's a consistent pattern of sexual abuse across it. I don't know. I take the cocaine guy. I think I would. But anyway, I'd rather work for the cocaine guy than the sexual abuser guy. But yeah, that's me.
I mean, I know it's a Twitter joke and everything, but it's like, the guy hates your guts already. I just don't know if I'd walk that line if I was Helwani. I might avoid that one. I mean, but look, it's like we said last time, nothing has changed. We all know where Ariel Helwani stands now.
Now you all know.
I personally lost a lot of respect for him as a reporter and a journalist because, it changes everything. I mean, he knows he can't hide behind, I'm not a journalist. Well, then don't break news and don't do interviews with the hardest hitters in the business. You could be be Ryan Satin if that's what you want to be, but you can't do both. You can't have your hands in both.
Right.
It just isn't fair.
All right, so that is Ariel Helwani. That is World of Wrestling Entertainment. I think we got this. I think we can do this. We got a little bit more to go here. We got it. We're in a good path here. I'll talk about
Battle in the Valley.
Yeah, Battle in the Valley. New Japan's Battle in the Valley. Fight TV. New Japan production. I don't get it. I don't understand. I wasn't watching live, thank God. I know you were watching live. Something like a 30-minute delay, 40-minute delay to get the show started. Then when it starts, the screen's melting all the time, or it's just going nuts. And then they finally get it going, and the sound is terrible. You can't hear the crowd. The entrance music's too loud. Like, what? I watch shows from 1987 in guard armories, and it's like everything's lit fine. I can hear the crowd. I can hear the announcers. I can hear everything. Why in 2023 does wrestling still sound and look like this?
It shouldn't. It's an embarrassment. It makes them look minor league. They had probably a shit ton of first-time viewers for the Sasha Banks fans who were checking out her first match in New Japan. And they really came across like a minor league joke of an organization.
Right. It looked minor league and it sounded minor league, and the arena, just the way the arena was lit, kind of looked minor league. It sounded terrible. Didn't work. So if you started, it's like, hey, sorry, we're going to start in 40 minutes. Like that stuff doesn't. You're talking about fans, like you're saying, like you're talking about a fan that is coming in from only watching WWE or only watching AEW or whatever. And you're going to come in and say, oh, sorry, the show's going to start in 40 minutes now. That's indie shit. You know what I mean? You can't do that.
And Fight has that money back guarantee. And I know a lot of people in our Discord who got their money back and ended up watching the show for free. And I'm sure that they weren't the only ones. There were probably a bunch of people who were like, I got to get on with my fucking night. And, and Fight just giving out refunds. It's not Fight's fault. I mean, they're dealing with what the feed they're getting from the building. So who knows how much money New Japan lost on this as well, with people who were just frustrated and didn't want to wait around. Yeah, the production's an absolute disaster. The sound mixing was off. And it's a shame because it was a really, really great show.
Oh, I think a lot of good stuff on the show. This is an important, not only was it a great show, it was an important show for New Japan.
Yeah, and by the end of it, the show was so good that you almost forgot about the production issues earlier in the night. And thank God they were on the West Coast, starting late. Where they still finished up at a decent time for the people who were live in the building and everything, and they had a lot of energy for those last two matches. So, I mean, it was a great show, though. I thought that, Mone and Kairi was the best match I saw this weekend. I thought it thought it was phenomenal.
Yeah, I thought it was great. And I had all that worry, the same worry that we talked about in the preview, that she was going to come in here and maybe she wasn't going to deliver, or she was going to bomb, or it just wasn't going to feel right. But now we know that the Tokyo Dome thing was just weird. She's trying to do a move that Kairi had no idea what she was trying to do. She was trying to do it in 19-inch heels and stuff. It didn't work. It was weird. But then she came out here and it was the old Sasha. You know what I mean? Like, I was kind of worried. Are we ever going to get that old Sasha again? Are we ever going to get? She was here. I mean, this was it. She was great. Kairi was great. They worked their ass off. It was the style of the match was good. The back and forth was good. Going through the table and I mean, they nailed it. They absolutely nailed it. I went 4.5 with this match. I thought it was phenomenal. I thought Mercedes looked great. Kairi looked great. The right ending, the right finish, they hit all the right tones. I mean, they nailed it, and all the credit in the world to Mercedes as well for, she could have easily said, I fucked up the Tokyo Dome thing, this thing's been kind of weird or whatever. No, she came out there and owned it and owned that building, and when it was done, you're like, yeah, that they got something here. This was a great investment by New Japan.
I also went 4.5. I thought this was on the verge of being a match of the year contender level match. It didn't quite get there, but it was close. I thought that these are two of the best women's wrestlers in the world, and I thought it really stepped up a notch when it left the ring and they did the spot through the table up by the ramp. That was impactful. Then they got back in the ring. The work here was very good. It had that Sasha Banks thing where it's right on the verge of almost being sloppy, but didn't quite cross the edge.
Right, she'll fall on her head a few times, and you're like, oh, no.
But it works for the match.
Yes, it always does. It always does.
It enhances the match because there's an element of danger when she wrestles. She's a very small person. Slight of build is what I mean. But her shit still is impactful, and that's hard to do. And sometimes that's the problem I have with some of the Tokyo Joshi Pro girls. It's like their shit doesn't have any impact. It's like they're lightly floating feathers attacking one another, and it bothers me. She's a slight of build, but her shit has oomph and it has impact. And Kairi is great. I mean, she's always been great.
Oh, she's phenomenal.
And I thought they just crushed it. And the right person obviously won. They finally got her finisher straight. And I got to tell you, they put her messy, ugly performance in the Tokyo Dome firmly in the rear.
Oh, yeah. You'll never think about that ever again.
Yeah, no, it's ancient history. I did like in the hype video how they did that clever edit.
Yes. I was like, I wonder what they're going to do here. So she picks her up, and all of a sudden it cuts to Kairi on the ground. They're like, oh! That was like perfect. I love it. I was like, are they going to show it? They didn't show it. It was perfect. I appreciate it. I thought her look, too, was good. I mean, obviously it was the Hana Kimura thing or whatever, but I just think the hair worked a little bit better. I didn't like the fire hair thing. Like, the whole Tokyo thing was weird. But again, they didn't wallow in that. She didn't wallow in that. They said, all right, fuck it, move forward. That wasn't great. We all know it wasn't great. Move forward, and once you get in the ring, it'll all be fine. And yeah, it is. I mean, nobody is thinking about that Tokyo Dome thing anymore.
No. And as far as Okada Tanahashi, I thought the Mone Kairi match was better. I thought that this was the second. This is weird. The second quote unquote worst Okada Tanahashi match of their series because they've all been great. The only one I thought wasn't as good as this one was Dallas.
I think I like Dallas. I think I like Dallas a little more in this one. I would call this and again, qualifying the worst Okada Tanahashi match ever. But again, qualifying that.
I went 4 flat on the Dallas match. That was all atmosphere for me, and I thought they just played the hits. I thought this one was a little bit better. I went 4.25. The other thing about this one, similar to the Dallas match, but even more so with this one because it was 4 years later, is Okada has so far surpassed Tanahashi and kayfabe that they are smart enough to not do the long closing stretch. There's never a serious threat.
Oh yeah. I think they're done having those matches. Like they can never go back to the old Tanahashi Okada matches at this point.
And it's because it doesn't make sense for the story.
Right. Okada's just better than him now. Tanahashi's older, and in kayfabe, he's nowhere near Okada, and that's how the matches play out.
Yeah, so I thought it was brilliantly worked from that aspect because their last few matches have been that way. Where it's Tanahashi is older, he's aging, the story is he's on the decline, and Okada is the dominant champion at the top of his game, who also happens to be wrestling like an absolute fucking animal right now.
Oh, yeah,
okay?
yeah.
So,
and this match was played out, at the beginning of it was, he's toying with this guy. He's like, you fucking old asshole, get him, you know. And then Tanahashi gets him a few times, and gets him with the dragon screw. But then, again, like, so he gets him on the ropes for a little bit, but even on the ropes is probably too strong. It was like, Tanahashi got some of his shit in, but then Okada, when he wanted to finish it, just said, all right, we're done here. Emerald Flosion, Enziguri, Rainmaker, 1, 2, 3, you're done. Okay.
And that's it. Yeah.
But he toyed with them for a little bit, and he was kind of cocky and you know, getting up from a move and kind of smiling to the crowd and gesturing and doing that sort of stuff. This guy's beneath him now. This guy's not on his level anymore. And that's good. Yeah. I think that's a good way to tell the story, because he should be on his level anymore. Okada's at the top of his fucking game and Tanahashi isn't. That's a good story to tell. It's the right way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought that they worked to the story of where both guys are in their careers, and you know, this isn't going to be any kind of 3-match series or anything like that. Okada put him away, and he's going to move on. He's just better than this guy now at this point, and it was worked well. That's why I like it a little bit better than the Dallas match, because to me the Dallas match was just, this is special to these people because the Americans really love our rivalry. Most of the people in this building are here because of us and because of this rivalry. We're going to play the hits for these people, and they did a great job of it. This one more fit the story of where they're both at in the context of the promotion today. That would be my mindset as to why I preferred this one a little more than the Dallas match. But neither could approach their best stuff. I mean, the dome matches and the invasion attack match, I mean, those are just
that's another pantheon of matches.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Those are just all-time great matches, and these are just real, like, very good matches. So, yeah, the last 2 matches absolutely delivered. And then very quickly, we'll go through the rest of this. The opener, Kevin Knight, Kushida, DKC, and Volador over Adrian Quest, Josh Alexander, Mascara Dorada, and Rocky Romero. My problem with this, we didn't get enough Volador and Rocky.
I agree. Well, we're not going to get much of it on Fantastica Mania either.
That's a joke, too. That's an absolute joke.
What are we doing? What?
That Rocky. And look, we were going to talk Fantastica Mania. We're going to run out of time. So we'll talk next week after the tour, I guess, is wrapped up. And really the only 2 shows that happened were the inconsequential ones with
right. The money stuff is coming soon, so we're
the next 4 nights. Next 4 nights, because the tournament starts tonight, then the tournament finals, and then we're in Corkin. So we'll talk about that stuff next week, because I'm into that, because CMLL is so hot right now.
Yeah, for sure. Watching all those shows for sure.
Rocky and Volador didn't mix it up until the post match, which
I know.
bothered me.
Yeah,
you know, they barely. You know, I want to see Santana Martel, you know, going right at it. So Kevin Knight scores the pin, though.
Yeah, he's gonna get that TV title match later too. So they got something in this guy. I like the looks good, and the work's getting pretty solid too. So they've definitely gotten something with him.
A few years ago, Rich, on an American New Japan show, a young lion scored a surprising fall. Jay White just store it away. Is all I'm saying. None of these things are accents. Just store it away. Kenta wins the strong title from Fred Rosser with help from Rock Hard, Juice Robinson.
And a stack of quarters.
Yeah, so I guess we're going to get Juice Rosser at some point. You know, I'm trying to look at the bright side here. Kenta's coming off a loss to Tanahashi, and then he beats Rosser, who has done nothing but work his ass off for this title. Does this free up Fred Rosser, though, to kind of maybe get to Japan at some point?
Yeah, maybe they can elevate him a little bit. Maybe he's not in the cup, but maybe he can do. I don't know. I would hope so. He's earned more. I hope that he gets more.
Listen, this guy deserves a chance to flop in Japan. That doesn't mean I think he's going to flop in Japan. What I'm saying is he's deserved a chance to at least flop in Japan and say, all right, maybe he's not cut out for the Japanese side of the company, because he's worked his ass off and he's been, you know, the star of New Japan Strong. So I'm hoping they do more with him on, you know, the other side of the Pacific, Rich.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yes, in the Far East, but as Mike Tenay would call it, the Orient. But
yes.
Fred Rosser just recently returned from a trip to the Orient, a tour of the Orient. But no, like, yeah, I 100%, I'm with you. Yeah, this guy has been great, and we're a Fred Rosser appreciation podcast, and everybody really should be. He's been great, and he needs to do more than what he's doing. Like, if he's not going to be the strong openweight title, then he's got to be doing something. You know what I mean? Like there has to be something more for this guy because he's been very good. He looks the part. He acts the part. He's been nothing but a great asset for them. So I do hope that this is not either the end or things are just slowing down. And he's just going to do some meaningless feud with Juice or whatever.
So should we mention Kenta doing the go to sleep in the direction of CM Punk?
Yes, I like it. And he had some shitbag tweet too that I loved afterwards. Yeah. I wish Kenta's body was still Kenta because he's not. He's so washed up. But God, his character work and his brain. He's one of those guys. If you look at the chart, like his brain got to its peak and his body is just plummeting.
Yeah,
and it sucks because if these could have coincided at the same time.
Yeah,
man. I forget what was the shitbag tweet. I'll find out what it was, but he was just like, I heard a fan was was appreciative of my move on because he always calls it my move or whatever. It's so good. Let me see if I can find the tweet. But I said I heard that my biggest fan in the world came to the arena last night. I hope he enjoyed real go to sleep. I love it. That's
right.
God, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, CM Punk in the building with Rob Naylor enjoying the show.
CM Rob Naylor, Giselle Shaw. It was like a very weird. It was Lars Frederick or whatever. Yeah. Giselle Shaw, CM Punk, and Rob Naylor.
That's a diner table you want to sit at.
Oh, absolutely. The stories that can be told there.
Yeah. You wanted to be lucky enough to have a ticket behind that row, right?
right.
So. Motor City Machine Guns defeat the West Coast Wrecking Crew. I have nothing to say.
I have nothing either. Yeah, I was really looking forward to this match, and then I remember that it was done, and I was like, all right, cool. And then now we're talking about it now, and I forgot anything about. Yeah, I have nothing. I got nothing.
It was aggressively fine, as people used to say, but have stopped saying lately. I think everyone just beat aggressively fine.
Yeah, we overdid it. We overdid it. I like that. I'd like to bring it back, but it's going to be a while till we can bring it back. So
this is the prime definition of aggressively fine. This Motor City Machine Guns West Coast Wrecking Crew match. So Eddie Kingston defeats Jay White. Loser leave town. First of all,
loser leaves New Japan. The whole town. The whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, not loser leaves San Jose. This is loser leaves New Japan. The promotion. Which they used to call in the old days, Rich, loser leaves town because the promotion used to be the fucking town.
Right, exactly, yeah.
So what did you think of the match? Did you think this is a great match? What did you think of this?
So I saw a lot of people say that they loved it and they thought it was great. I thought it was fine. Joe, I thought it was aggressively fine. No, it was better than aggressively fine, but it was okay. I don't know. I didn't love it the same way I saw a lot of other people love it. Maybe they're invested in the Jay White thing and they're invested in, this could be it for him. I just kind of looked at it as, all right, it's Eddie and Jay White, and then Eddie won. I don't know. I've seen much better Eddie Kingston matches, and I've seen much better Jay White matches. Ultimately, I thought it was just okay.
I thought the drama down the stretch pushed this into notebook territory.
Now, you watched this live, right?
I did.
Okay, so I think watching it a couple days later, knowing full well who won and who lost this, probably takes a little bit away from it.
I could see that because some of those Jay White kickouts were pretty dramatic in that it's like, wow, is he going to come back from this spinning back fist? Did they really dick tease us into this guy's going to be out of New Japan, but now he's going to hit a switchblade out of nowhere? You know what I mean? Or
right.
Whatever his finish was called. I know it's not called the switchblade. So yeah, the drama down the stretch was very good, and Kingston is good. I thought Kingston was sloppy at points early in the match, but the closing stretch for me pushed it over the top, and I thought it was very dramatic. So low-level notebook for me. Jay White, we'll see. I don't know where this – we talked about it last weekend, the week before. We don't have to beat it to death. I don't know what's happening here. I don't know if his contract's up. I think we can get a better read of it depending on what – like if he pops up in Impact Wrestling, all right, the work is on, okay, because he's not choosing that, okay? If he pops up at WrestleMania, all right, then I guess his contract's really up.
Yes, I believe he has left New Japan for wrestling, yes.
So I'm just going to let this one play out. We don't have time to really dissect it on this show anyway because we're running out of time. Filthy Rules fight. Tom Lawler defeats Homicide. Look.
I thought this sucked. I hated this match.
Look, I have never been a fan of Homicide. I went to Ring of Honor shows live when he was at the peak of his fucking popularity, and I never understood it. Like, people would go bonkers for this fucking guy. I wanted to watch fucking Davey Richards and Roderick Strong, and I want to watch my geeky work rate shit. I never was a big Homicide guy, and I'm still not. So, and Lawler's the kind of guy who he really needs the right opponent, to be completely honest. So I'm with you. I didn't love this. It had its moments. I didn't hate it, but I don't know. I didn't love it.
I like Homicide and I like Filthy Tom. So I was thinking, man, this is like one of my most disappointing matches between two guys. Like, maybe not most disappointing, but these are two guys that I both think are good wrestlers that had like a bad match, and this was bad. It was not good. Homicide's kind of washed at this point too, so that doesn't help. But no,
Homicide's been washed for 15 fucking years.
Well, yeah, maybe, but he doesn't even have like, I don't know. There used to be like an oomph to his stuff, or there used to be some sort of vibe.
He had an aura.
There's no aura anymore. He's just a dude that's just not that good anymore. So yeah, and this just never ended either. 16 minutes, way too long for this thing. Let's go. Come on, let's get this thing on the road. So
he had a great entrance theme in ROH.
Hell yeah, he did. The Truth, Beanie Siegel.
But it was like there was the half of the ROH roster that I like. It was Homicide, BJ Whitmer, Jimmy Jacobs.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
That part of the ROH roster, I had like no interest in.
Yeah, you just wanted to see Davey Richards do a suicide dive into the crowd. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. I wanted to watch my work rate guys, and I didn't really, BJ Whitmer and Jimmy Jacobs pushing railroad spikes into each other's head. I wasn't at ROH for that. You know what I mean? I wasn't there for Homicide pouring bleach down Colt Cabana's mouth. And shit like that. That's not why I was going to ROH shows when I was at the peak of my smarkdom in 2006 or whatever the fuck. So I was just never into the guy. I don't know. Zack Sabre Jr. defends the television title against Clark Connors here. I thought this was a good match. The Sabre thing, it's, we've talked that to death too. I really hope they're setting up one of these young guys to knock him off. Who knows? Maybe a Kevin Knight, maybe what's his name after he loses the 6-man titles at some point with Suzuki and Ren
Narita.
Maybe Ren Narita will come, but I didn't think Connors really had a realistic chance to beat Sabre here, and he didn't. They pushed the time limit again. Sabre loves pushing this time limit.
I wish he wouldn't. You know what I mean? I really wish that
it's overplayed.
It's overplayed. Yeah, and it's like I want you to go in there and beat Clark Connors in 10 minutes. Like, and there's not really there's not a whole lot of like, oh my God, here comes the time limit. You know what I mean? It's just like he's toying with these guys until we get kind of close, and then he's just like, all right, here, I'll tap him out then now. So it's just, I don't know. I want a little bit more oomph in these matches. I thought the 15-minute time limit would create like a sense of chaos. And it's really not. They're just kind of like not that fun matches for 13 minutes. And then there's like a minute where Sabre puts the last lock on and then it's over. So I don't know. I need a little bit more juice out of these. And I haven't gotten them yet.
So there was the one good spot though where Sabre went for like the Euro clutch or whatever, and Connors pushed him off and locked. Like there was a couple really cool creative spots.
Yeah, there was a lot of there was good stuff in this match, but ultimately it wasn't like, it wasn't that exciting for me.
I don't remember if it was a tweet or someone texted me, but going back to the Lawler Homicide match, there was a point where they pulled a door out from under the ring, and CM Punk turned to Naylor and was like, "Why do they have a door?" And he had to explain to him that tables aren't in anymore. It's doors that they use now. Like doors are the new hotness. Like CM Punk was completely oblivious to that.
Well, if you don't watch like modern indies, I could get that because yeah, like how would CM Punk know?
It
is weird, and it is strange too, for the record.
Yeah, like CM Punk's not tuning into Game Changer Wrestling. Whatever the fuck on a random Saturday afternoon.
Insert Notorious B.I.G. album name here. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
No, but I did like that at one point, Ian Riccoboni, who's one of the best in the biz. Every time they get a weapon out, he would say, "Well, the reason we have that underneath the ring is for the da-da-da-da-da," or whatever. And at one point, Drama King Matt is just like, why even bother explaining it? It's wrestling, Ian. It's like, yeah. At one point, I appreciate Ian being like, "Oh, we have that below the ring in case we have to change the the guardrails or something like that." But I also appreciated Drama King Matt just being like, "Who fucking cares? It's wrestling." Like just.
Ian's the best boy.
He's the best. He's trying. He's like, well, we have a door underneath the ring just in case. Like, he tried.
You leave Ian alone.
I know. I love Ian. I appreciated his attempt to do that. I also appreciate Drama King Matt just being like, shut up. Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah, Drama King Matt. Yeah, because no one can say or spell his last name, so it's Drama King Matt.
I have no idea. It's Raywall, right? But I don't know how to spell it. If you put a gun to my head and said spell Raywall right now, I'm done. Yeah,
blow your brains out. You'd be fucking dead.
I'm done. Yeah, I'm already done, I think.
So that's the Battle in the Valley. We're not going to do Fantastic Mania. We'll push the New Japan Cup stuff again too, because we want to get to this. All Japan Triple Crown, a Triple Crown title switch is being squeezed in as we go overtime.
Right at 3 hours. Right,
and we did no banter at the start either.
I didn't even try it. Not even the we said, our technology might suck today. All right, let's get to it. And then we got to it.
Yeah. So Yuji Nagata. Now, I tried to warn people in our Discord. We have a really good All Japan channel in our Discord. And everyone was kind of against the idea, scared that Yuji Nagata was even getting a title shot, even the remote possibility that he could win the Triple Crown and put it on a 54-year-old man from another promotion. And I remember going into the Discord and being like, look, I'm not in favor of it either, but you can't write it off. I think that they might do a switch here because these two guys had that feud last year and it really went unresolved. And this would be a nice little bow on that for, Nagata to get this guy who's been a cocky little prick to him and everything. And they did the switch, Rich. So Yuji Nagata is your new Triple Crown champion. He's got to be some kind of elite class of guys who have won the IWGP, the Triple Crown, the GHC.
Yeah, we were trying to figure that out, and yeah, I don't know that we ever got to it or a definitive answer. I know
that Kojima, is one, and Muto, I guess, would be one, and I'm sure maybe Takayama. Did Takayama win? I don't even know if he won all three off the top of my head. But so Nagata wins the Triple Crown, defeats Kento Miyahara, and what I thought, he really took Kento out of his comfort zone and worked a very story-heavy match, not story-heavy in the Roman Reigns sense, but in
like a good story, like an actual good story,
a pro wrestling story, right. Yeah. And then he just beat him clean with the fucking, the
exploder, yeah, 2 exploders. It was great. I love that finish, man. And
with the.
I was going to say, Kento, he does the exploder suplex, and Kento's eyes are open as he's pinning him, just like, oh no, he's out. He's selling that he's just been knocked out and just completely cannot stand, what just happened. No, I thought Nagata looked great in this match.
No, look, Nagata can still go, just like Kojima with his run in Noah. It was very obvious that he could still go, and he was one of the better wrestlers in Noah. Yuji Nagata can still go, and New Japan's not going to push these guys anymore. They have their philosophy, and I mostly agree with it. I think you do have to get the new blood in the mix. But when these guys go to other places, they get to stretch their legs and do things like this. And now listen, before Noah really fell off the shelf and before the Suzuki Gun invasion, when Yuji Nagata won the GHC title, probably going back 7-8 years in Noah, he popped business a bit.
Yeah, he did.
And he drew for them during that time relative to what they were drawing before, doing numbers that they would love to do now. Honestly, I think some of his matches did 4,000 or 5,000 fans when he was GHC champion during what wasn't a great period for Noah. Now, I'm not saying that, they're going to be running fucking Budokan with him as champion here with All Japan, but maybe there's a little something to this, to where they think that this can spark a little something. This drew 1,400 fans to Korakuen Hall.
Hot crowd, too. The crowd was great.
Hot crowd, and it's a good number for All Japan coming out of the pandemic, when a lot of groups are still drawing sub 1,000 in that building. And, yeah, it was a Triple Crown match. I get it, but decent crowd. Maybe, they've got a little something here. All Japan just feels fresher in so many ways. We've talked about it a million times. We saw Yuma Anzai on this card lose to Shingo. Not much of a match, and it shouldn't have been. Shingo did what he had to do to beat. Anzai is not at a point where he should be challenging Shingo and nearly beating him. So that match, was what it should have been. Naruki Doi, he's the old shitbag that we're accustomed to. This is the shitbag Naruki Doi, and he made the challenge on the previous show, and he wins the junior title here over Atsuki Aoyagi, who was a better champion than I thought he would be. And I think that's a good move. And, he's aligned with Minoru Suzuki and It's getting late and we're 3 hours into the show. Forget the third guy that they're aligned with in All Japan. Someone in the chat room will say it. So Doi, I think, brings something interesting to the junior title for sure. You could question, all right, we got a New Japan wrestler who's 54 years old as a Triple Crown champion. We've got a former Dragon Gate wrestler who's got to be in his 40s at this point, who's another outsider, 42 years old for Doi as our junior champion. We're putting a lot of our titles here on people who aren't. But look, All Japan last year probably had one of their lousiest years that they've had in a long time. It was boring. It was dry. They couldn't get Jake Lee over. They didn't draw well. And, they're trying some different things. And, they've got some new young guys like the Saitos and Anzai, and they're trying to get Naoya Nomura back in the mix. And they've had Takuma Nomura in. They've had Minoru Suzuki in. And I like everything they're doing right now. I think it's just so much. The company is just way more interesting than it has been probably in the last 2 years or so. And I'm looking forward to watching their shows as opposed to, well, I do this podcast and we talk about it. I am paying for the service, so I may as well watch it. No, I'm looking forward to watching these shows now.
I think the cheering crowds are going to probably help All Japan a lot as well. And I didn't really quite get it until I watched this match in the show, and I was like, oh, okay, it feels like a hotter, and this is a promotion that did okay in the clap crowd, but there were very boring shows too. They would get very boring at times with All Japan because some of the guys work a pretty boring style, but it has a little bit of juice. It has a lot of energy with the crowds, and yeah, I think this shit, you gotta go in there. Yeah, like you said, it seems on its face kind of like, oh my god, like Yuji Nagata, like what are we doing here? But like you said, it's a weird. They have a strange roster now, but strange in a good way. Where you have Naruki Doi, you have Yuji Nagata, you have Kento Miyahara, you have Aoyagi, you have the All Japan guys that they're working. Minoru Suzuki, who's probably going to continue to work in this company for a while too. So there's enough guys in there that are kind of sprinkled in to the point where it doesn't feel like the same All Japan that it's felt like for a long, long time. It does feel a little more fresh and a little bit more unique. Plus, they're working on those young guys. Like Anzai, like we said, I don't think he's quite as fully together as a lot of people think he is, but he's still solid. You know what I mean? He's still really, really good. So there's enough on there. There's Amore, who's solid as hell too. So yeah, I think it's fun. It's a fun show, and I would definitely recommend people check out this Nagata Kento Miyahara. I went 4.25 on it. Toyed with 4. You know what? I can go 4.25 plus because we're doing the plus.
That's what I did.
Yeah, because it's not a 4.5
plus,
and it's better than 4.25. It's 4.25 plus. So
I agree.
But it's that. It's really good. It's really. But more than anything, it's like Kento Miyahara is just the best, man. He comes out, and there's like this little group of Yuji Nagata fans. And he's got this whole arena going nuts for him. You know what I mean? There's all of Corkin Hall's going, Kento, Kento, Kento. But this one group isn't. And he just won't walk past them until they all start chanting Kento, Kento. And he's just staring at him like, no, I'm not walking until you chant my name or whatever. And eventually a few of them go, Kento. And he goes, okay, now. And then he gets in the ring. And then it was awesome because when he loses the match, they cut to those fans. And those fans are going absolutely nuts with their Blue Justice banners and stuff. And it was just, it's cool. Like it felt like a really fun show. The crowd was loud. Nagata was good. Miyahara was good. Definitely check this one out if you get a chance. Go out of your way to watch this one.
I thought it was a little better than the Miyahara versus Takuya Nomura match from January, and I thought it was not quite as good as the Miyahara Yuma Aoyagi match from February 4th. So
yeah, I think that's exactly where I would place it too.
Yeah, so I had it right in between, but it looks like the Onita stuff is wait a minute, Onita, that exploding match.
I think we still have that coming up, right?
No, they already did it. They did.
Good.
They already did the tag match, but the exploding tag match. But he won the titles. He won the All Asia tag titles with Yoshitatsu in that match.
Oh,
so he
will
just
be keep
back.
him. No, you can just keep him. That's fine.
Oh, you wanna just do away with the All Asia tag team titles?
If he's got them, sure, go ahead. Just Keep them.
You just want to flush the legacy of Finesse and Profit.
One of the most prestigious tag titles in Japanese wrestling.
Look, it's had a rough go the last few years.
That's what I'm saying. Like, maybe we need to let it go. Maybe we just need to let it depart and move on with our lives.
No, Onita's coming back and you're going to like it. And
I'm not going to watch it is what I'm going to do.
Well, Onita's going to come back and you're not going to like it. Is more appropriately is how I should put it. Look at their roll call of champions though. Yuji Nagata, New Japan. Minoru Tanaka is the Gaora TV champion. Not that matters much, but Onita and Yoshitatsu were the All Asia champs. Naruki Doi is the junior champ, and Naoya Nomura and Yuma Aoyagi are the tag champs. Every title is held by someone who isn't technically in the company.
Great. Yeah, that's not great, is it? I don't think that's great.
But it does all feel fresh, though.
I think at this point they're not like they're not a company that can sustain itself on its own. They've entered that weird period where they're just kind of I don't know what you would call it. Like they're an indie, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to call it exactly, but they're one of those companies now that's just like
indie. A big indie.
I guess they're just a big indie. Yeah. And they don't have to be beholden to like a set roster. It's just, who's ever available. Come on in. Do a little run.
Makes it more interesting than it has been, at least. They're a big indie with the historical name and the historical titles. And, if they do a big Triple Crown title match, they can do a mid-sized 2,000-seater kind of building and put people in it.
Right. And they still have Kento. They still have a star, too. It's not like they're completely,
Yeah. But, I've enjoyed their year so far. Last year was a real slog all the way through. And they did announce the Carnival blocks. Do you have those in front of you real quick?
I do. Yeah, I can give them to you right now here. All right.
So these are the Carnival blocks. And obviously this won't be for a number of
April. Yeah, months. April 8th. So we're ahead of the game here for sure. But April 8th. Running through May 7th. The A block is Yuma Aoyagi, Kento Miyahara, Yoshitatsu, Ryuki Honda, T-Hawk, Jun Saito, Cyrus, and X.
So obviously you look right at Kento and Aoyagi, right?
Yeah.
That's the obvious that you look at. We don't even know who's going to be Triple Crown champion by April 8th. So it's kind of, you can't look at it from that standpoint. Nagata could be champ. He might not be champ. And then there's T-Hawk, and then other than that, like Ryuki Honda's a guy who I'd like to, but Cyrus, I like him ironically. I do like him ironically,
yeah, but you can't get too excited about Cyrus.
Yoshitatsu fucking stinks, and each block has an X. So what about B block?
Yes, B block is Suwama, Suji Ishikawa, Shotaro Ashino, Naoya Nomura, Hokuto Omori, Rei Saito, Yuma Anzai, and X.
So everyone's going to be watching Yuma Anzai against all the veterans, right? That's going to be what everybody has their eye on.
Yeah.
And Nomura,
dude, Anzai versus Ashino sounds fucking awesome. I can't wait for that too.
Yeah, Nomura is going to be obviously. I think he would be the favorite to win the block. You can never count out Suwama, although. Could this finally be the year?
Joe, I'm going to put it on record. I think I can call.
He hasn't been.
I think we got to call it. I think we got to call it. I think we got to do it. I think he's done. I think it's over.
You think they're finally going to cycle him down?
I do.
Ishikawa has long been cycled down. This could be Suwama has not been figured in.
No, he's just toying around in the undercards and stuff. Maybe he's just waiting to pounce. He might just be waiting to pounce. But
he's part of the whole. They're trying to do a women's thing, and he's a big part of that. So his attention's diverted.
I feel like they gave him that to kind of just say, like, "Hey, why don't you go? Let's go over there. Why don't you deal with that? We know you're still a vital part of our company, but why don't you go work on that a little bit?" That's what I read. We're not going to put you in a big time spot anymore, so we're going to give you this other thing to kind of bide your time.
I'm not going to speculate on the X's. I've seen people say like, well, maybe it's Nagata, maybe it's Minoru Suzuki. Well, why wouldn't they just?
They
say
would just announce
them?
that. They would just announce those guys. I would assume
those guys are there, and that'd be kind of silly. They're already there, so they're going to be true outsiders, not outsiders who are already outsiders, already working there. So I don't know, but that's in April, so we're way over time.
Yep, we are done here. So that is it for us on the flagship. Again, we will get the New Japan Cup. That's our new Starrcade 1991. I promise you we'll go over the blocks or the brackets of the New Japan Cup next week, but we cannot do it this week. We're out of time. So that's it for us. Flagship, patreon.com/voices of wrestling, voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon for all of our bonus audio. I'm doing Canadian Heart Month right now, where I'm going through a bunch of great Bret Hart matches. We're going to have a live instant reaction of AEW Revolution coming up in a couple of weeks. Excited to do that. All the live Flagship, all of our bonus audios. Just did a deep dive this week as well. NWA World Heavyweight title in the 1990s. A great deep dive that's gotten just rave reviews from everybody that's listened to it. So that one is available on our $5 tier. So plenty of stuff available on the $5 and the $10 tiers. Flagship, patreon.com/voices of wrestling, voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon. Also our Discord, you mentioned it a few times, voicesofwrestling.com/Discord is how you get on there. And then make sure you subscribe to each and every one of the podcasts on the Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network. We would really appreciate that. And then, hey, throw some reviews, throw some whatevers you got to do. Whatever the services you're on, review it, subscribe, do whatever you got to do. It helps us out tremendously. And last but not least, our YouTube channel as well. We're continuing to try to grow that one as well. So just search for Voices of Wrestling on YouTube and you will find us there. So that is it for us. For Joe, I'm Rich. We'll talk to you next time on the Flagship Podcast. Take care.